Oh, hello. Oh no. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. They got her, gang. Anna, no. Is this my end? Can you guys hear me? Am
It's
I
me? Or is
frozen?
it you? Holy shit, I hope it's not me. Ah,
Hold on. Are you back? Okay. Oh no. Oh no, gang. Uh, Technical difficulties. Stick with us. Hopefully she'll be back in a moment. We were having such a lovely chat behind backstage there. Okay, she's back. Hey, are you with us? Hello. Did they get
hello?
you?
Who lagged? You or me?
I
And
think I okay. We're gonna get this right, gang. It's gonna happen. It's gonna work.
um, yes, it's. Can you hear me? I couldn't hear
Yes, we can hear
anything you
you.
were saying. You were like a robot, full on. Like,
Oh man. So I think it's okay on my end. Gang chat. Am I okay? Is it me lagging or is it her lagging? I can't tell. The connection looks good on my end. Looks like we got yeah, it's green lights all around on my end. You're good now
used to
though.
be okay.
Yeah, can you still hear
I
me?
can try to. Yeah, I can hear you just fine, but right now. But before that, I couldn't understand like anything. It was like, you know,
Oh man.
this type of thing. Maybe it will work. I can try to, to get my camera working again, and maybe it
Oh,
will
your
be cool.
camera's working
Oh, it
right
works.
now. Your camera's working, your audible's working.
Yeah, so it's good now.
Good now.
So let's try it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
go now. Okay, so
Let's try it.
once again, we're gonna talk about all things Ukraine and
Sorry.
Russia. No, it's fine. We're gonna talk about all things Ukraine and Russia related today. And joining me, hopefully joining me tonight is Ukrainian Anna. Tell my audience who
Hi.
you are, what you do, why you're here, etc. Go ahead.
Hello, hello. I'm sorry. It must have been me, but anyhow, I'm here. So, I'm a Ukrainian volunteer. I live in Kharkiv, which is like quite close to, front. Not exactly, but quite further down the east of Ukraine. And I do mostly just volunteer work for providing aid that I can for soldiers. I also do some work as translator for journalists, like BBC people, The Economist people, all sorts of various people who come here to do journalist work, and some American YouTube people, some of whom you might know, Dylan Burns, for example. Yeah, so that's what I do. And yeah, and Wick asked me to come by. Thank you. And yeah, we are here to chat about stuff.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking time out of your day to come by and talk with me. I know that you're very busy over there. There's a lot going on. But I think it's
Mm.
important for people to hear from people who are living through it. Recently, for example, we've had a lot of debate about the funding for Ukraine bill that's been stalled out in the House now
Hmm.
for a while. Um, Mike Johnson kind of shelved it for at least the next 2 weeks or so, um,
Yeah.
and it's a problem. And I don't know if people realize exactly the effects that this will have
Hmm.
on Ukrainians and how this will play out in the real world. So I wanted to kind of bring you on to talk about that. But first, I want to talk to you about the Tucker Carlson interview. First of all, did you see it?
Yes. So much to say. Yes, saw it. I watched it. I suffered. Yes.
I will tell you
Uh,
this. I'll tell you this. Like going in, I was not sure what to expect. And look, I know that you were against it. I saw, or at least I saw you be pretty against Tucker Carlson conducting this
mhm.
interview. But I gotta say, like after the interview's done, I'm glad it happened. I'll be real with you.
Yeah.
Is that
Sort of agree. Yeah,
sort of,
yeah.
sort of?
Um,
Give
well,
us your
well,
thoughts. Go ahead.
basically, yeah, everyone kind of made those like fun predictions about what it's going to be about because I think absolutely all reasonable people on the planet Earth can agree that that was meant to be a propaganda piece. So he went there to get. Have you watched his interview with Orban, Viktor Orban from Hungary?
I have not seen that one yet. No.
It's not like very important at the end of the day, but I think he wanted something like that. So he wanted a person who is like conservative, far right sort of like figure. He wanted someone who can play along for the Western audience, who knows the Western audience, like Orban does, because he's in the European Union at the end of the day, right? And he can talk about the issues that a Western or American audience, Tucker Carlson's audience in particular, cares about. So we expected gender bathrooms, gender neutral bathrooms. We expected LGBT agenda. We expected trans in the kids. We expecting immigrants like brown people in the country, we expected that. We expected, yes, spooky. We expected that. We expected nato talk. Oh, sorry.
No, her handlers are.
Air raid.
Oh, are
Air
you
raid.
okay?
But whatever.
They're
It's
really trying
constant.
to cut this interview short, right? The Russian hackers
Yes.
are trying to hack your thing. Then they've got air
I
raids. They're
must
shooting
know.
missiles. Yeah. Anyway, stay safe. If you need to jump
I-
off, please.
if something if something explodes, I will hear it and then I will go.
No,
If not, then
totally
I will
get it.
stay.
Totally get it. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. So basically, that's what the predictions were about. Him blaming NATO, saying that NATO expansion is the reason why he, invaded. I guess. So that's what everyone wanted, kinda, to hear in Tucker's audience. That's what Tucker, I presume, wanted to hear. And he, of course, also wanted to talk about some issues relating to shitting on Democrats, maybe shitting on some sort of like liberal values or whatever the fuck, right? What he got instead is 40 minutes of deranged ranting about history. He got a guy who spent 40 minutes, like unironically, talking about why Ukrainians are not actually real and why he has God-given right to invade us and to turn us back to the Russian lore,
It
so
was
to speak.
it was
So
surreal watching it from a Western
yes,
perspective. It was surreal because, like you, going into it, I thought, okay, puppies, and I thought they were really going to hammer home the NATO thing. That's what I think they were going to
yeah,
focus on.
yeah.
And Tucker tried, right, to his credit, like or credit, I guess you'd say, he
He
tried
tried, yeah,
to
he
do
did
that, but
try.
he just was not allowed to. Putin just basically lil broed him, right, with the CIA comment, like,
Yes.
oh, it was
Oh, that I love
amazing.
that.
It was
That was good.
amazing. And the reason look, I think that anyone coming out of watching that, thinking that this had anything to do with NATO, right? If you were going, I'll say it this way, I'll rephrase it. If you went into it thinking that the reason that Russia invaded had anything to do with NATO, this interview disabused you of that notion. I don't think any reasonable or rational person who could go and watch the Tucker Carlson interview and come out thinking that that had anything to do with it. And in fact, I don't know if you saw this, but when I moderated the debate between Destiny and Ian Crossland, he was asked directly by a member of the audience, like, "Did you see the Tucker Carlson
Oh,
interview?"
I saw that.
Yeah.
That annoyed me. I'm not gonna lie. First of all, just because I understand that for me, for Ukraine in general, right? That's good. That people are like, holy, like moly, like this dude is like unhinged, imperialist, expansionist, fascist type of guy. And but it annoys me that it needs this. Like he said this, all of this, 20 times now. They're English subtitles. The things he said in that interview is what he says to Russian audience every day, you know? It's what we heard. He wrote an essay. Like my man wrote an essay about the historical roots of like Russian and Ukrainians, and like it's this what he told Tucker Carlson, his fan fiction about Russian history, you know. So he wrote an essay in 2021, like pre-invasion, I think. So all of this is public. All of this is known. Like there is not a single Estonian, Polish person, like Georgian person, Moldova person, Romania person, Ukraine person who doesn't know why he's doing what he's doing. He's doing the exact same thing that Russia has done always. There's like it's not even a Putin problem. It's like Russia problem. So yeah, so for me that people are finally catching up is good. You know, I can't say it's bad, but it's just annoying that it needs to be like what does he need to
Yeah.
say like at this point? Like it's fucking obvious by the actions, by the
Yeah.
words, by the history,
No,
like by everything, you know?
I'm with you, but I will say this,
Hmm.
like I guess I give them a little more charity because these people are convinced that the deep state and the
Yeah, I
media
know, but
shills are all lying to them, so they kind of need to
yes.
hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Forgive the Vosh reference, but from the horse's mouth,
What?
and they sorry, uh,
Oh,
and they need to hear it
jeez.
directly from the source, right? Sometimes in a setting that they trust, and
But the source has said it
unfortunately, they all
many
trust
times.
Tucker. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but unfortunately for Tucker, he couldn't control the, you know, in 8062 Rurik, you know, he couldn't control that. So he tried, by the way. I super love that in a Russian version of this interview, the one they showed to Russian public, they cut out Tucker Carlson's questions when he asked, "Is this relevant? Like, is this really like? Do we need to talk about this?" He asked, I think, 2 or 3 times, and they cut out that from Russian version. I watched the Russian version as well just to see what they will show. So yeah, they didn't like that. That he was asking about how the fuck is Rurik in 8062 bro is relevant. And also it is deeply funny because what he said is very relevant to Russians. It's like part of their lore, like their fictional vision of the history that gives them the holy, I know it sounds cringe, but that's how they see it, the holy right to basically every other less of a Slav, less of a nation than them. So for them, it's very important. So when he talks about it with this like grandiose like feeling, it's because it's what they care about. But it did feel at one point as if he got mixed up Western audience and Russian audience. I honestly don't know what happened because those 40 minutes is something he usually addresses to Russians.
yes,
It's
yes,
not something they do for the Western audience. For the Western audience, they usually play up things that Westerners care about, specifically far right and
hmm
conservative
hmm
MAGA people, like Trump people, right? So they're not dumb like with their propaganda usually. They aim it at the right audience usually.
What
But this
happened
time,
here then?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he too much Botox. I don't know. Like what happened exactly? I'm confused just as much as you. I didn't expect that. I expect more like NATO pushing because that's what they sell.
Yes,
But like everyone knows it's not true here, so it doesn't make sense. Even his own people know it's bullshit, so he doesn't push that line to Russians themselves. He pushes it to the Western people.
yeah,
But
it does.
yeah, this time around it's kind of didn't work out, which I'm glad. Like I knew that wasn't. I'm not gonna go give any like props to Tucker Carlson because he fully intended for it to be like a hit piece and for it to be a propaganda piece. But unfortunately for him, the Botox Führer was a little bit more unhinged than he expected, I suppose. So
Have you seen any
yeah,
of Tucker's other clips from Russia that he's done recently?
yes.
What are your thoughts?
Can we just appreciate? Like, Wick, you're American. Please tell me. On can I say the R word here or not?
Retarded? Go ahead.
Yes. Can you please tell me on what kind of retards does that? Do they like? Who are the retards who are gonna consume that and think, yeah, fuck yeah? Who
There
are
is
those people?
there's a market for it. Here. I'm going to give look. It's fun to make fun of them, but let's give some charity. at least for a minute, and try to put ourselves in those shoes. You have been inundated with propaganda that shows that the institutions in America and the West have lied to you. And some of that is true. Some of that propaganda is
Mhm.
just true, right? And so you have a deep distrust of everything coming out of the West, right? Um, and then suddenly you're hearing about this war that's happening far, far away from you. And it seems to play into all the lies that you've heard, that you've believed, right? It seems to play into all your presuppositions. It plays into all of that. So you go and you see someone that you trust, Tucker Carlson, saying all these things like how, oh, look how low the prices for food are in Russia. The single American dollar can buy so much,
because
right? And you just
because
eat it up.
ruble is worth nothing. That's not a flex he thinks that is. That's because you people, you you know, eagle, glorious Americans people, you have green dollars. Those green dollars are real money. They buy everything in the rest of the poor fucks out here. So in poor countries, you're rich because your money is valuable. That is not a flex. That shows that Russian money is toilet paper. It is. So it dropped even like worse, obviously, because of the war and everything else. But it is toilet paper. Our money is also toilet paper. I mean, Ukrainian money compared to. It's just the prices are low for Americans. I don't know. This is like so brain damaged. I don't even know how to address this. He's like, look at those like groceries I bought for cheap, and I'm like, cheap food, bro. Russia is thriving, prosperous country, and you're like, dude, it's like the exact opposite. You have money, currency that doesn't fluctuate like crazy, that is valuable in other countries because you have a strong economy. Russia doesn't have it. So it's just it's money that is that is, there's no foundation to that money, you know. So it's just very, it's incredibly silly. Of course, like Bangladesh is a prosperous economy or something. If you go there, your money is
I,
worth a lot there
yeah,
as well. I just, it's just so stupid. And he doesn't mention, of course, that the things he bought is 1 month, is like $100 or something that he said, I think, is like is basically the salary in Moscow is very high compared to the rest of Russia.
yeah,
The disparity is quite
yes,
huge, but
yes.
also the prices are much 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 higher than everywhere else. So for a Russian person who is not a rich American, who is not getting their salary in dollars, who gets their salary in ruble, and for them that's very expensive. That's literally like, I don't know how much that is. For example, like $700 is something like that. Is
Well,
the
let's look it up, the
rate
exchange rate right now. I'm
translation?
curious. Let me look it up. Give me one moment, please. Dollar
Hmm.
to ruble.
Ruble, yeah.
I don't know how to say it.
It's
So $1 is equal right now to 92.50 Russian rubles. Okay, that's almost a
oh,
one to one
yikes.
hundred, almost a 1 to 100 exchange rate. That's a
Y-
look. That's a
That's
lot.
yikes. That
Yeah.
that's got that's got worse, let's say like that. So yeah, so you know, it's just think about yourself in terms of like prosperity and how good people live, because that's what he sells to Americans. He says, look how those people live better than us because they have cheap groceries, they have cheap food. But it's not cheap for Russians. If you have $700 salary, $100 of groceries in one day is not cheap. Russians spend 30% of their salary on food. Americans spend about 6-7% of their salaries on food. It's not a good
Yeah.
country.
It's
It
it's a
seem,
lot.
yeah, it's just yeah, it's just incredibly stupid. It's like
No.
stupid. Oh, the metro station. He also did the metro
Mm-hmm.
station thing, and he was like, I don't think I need to comment on that, to be honest. But he's like, so Stalin was not a great guy, but look at the metro station he built. I mean, it's just next level is like, Hitler was a bad guy. But look at that industrialization he made. It's pretty good, right? He like
It's
industrialized the
yeah,
country, and you're like, what the fuck?
it's a little much. I
Yes.
am
Oh,
curious how much,
yeah.
so in your opinion, and I know we're just kind of like guessing here, But in your opinion, how much does Tucker know he's lying?
I
Like,
think he does know because I prefer to believe he's a liar than the absolute retard. So because of that, I kind of I think he knows he's doing a bit. He's doing like a propaganda bit. Otherwise, I mean, it's I can't believe that Tucker Carlson has never been outside. That he never visited, like, I don't know, some foreign countries on vacations. Like, have he never been like in any European, like Berlin, or like, I don't know, like Paris or London? Of course he has been. Like, I can't believe he hasn't seen like big cities. He's like, this city is so much cleaner and like better than your American cities. I mean, I truly mean no offense, but almost every European city is kind of better, so it's not like a Russian thing at all. So average American, for example, like some guy who like watches Tucker Carlson, probably like not very rich MAGA kind of dude, like that lives somewhere, I don't know, like
yeah, like
Alabama, let's say. Okay,
in the rural
yeah,
Texas or something, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I get you.
never been in any other country. For them, they will buy it. They will look at it and they'll be like, "Wow, that looks very good. That looks like kind of nice, nicer than like my place, right?" But Tucker has been in other places. He knows how they look. He knows also how the differences between like what Americans can afford and what Russians can afford. He knows that. He can't. It's not possible that he doesn't know that. So.
You know,
y-
you say that, but look, I have never gone wrong when I have or let's just say it's always a mistake to assume that people are wise and smart. Always assume retarded.
I don't think he's
Always assume
biased,
retarded,
but
right?
yes, but I don't. It's his job. It's like his profession now. Is that right?
Mm,
So he done that before. He whitewashed, for example, Orban in Hungary. Just he did that. He has been. If he hasn't been spewing Russian nonsense for 2 years prior to this interview. Like if he hasn't been actively, I
true.
saw the videos, on
Hmm.
Fox News when he
Hmm.
was there, and afterwards it's just straight up, doom, 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 Russian propaganda, and like evil Nazi Ukrainians, all of that shit. So if he wasn't doing that, I would give him like the benefit of the doubt, Dave,
That's fair.
definitely. But
Yeah.
since he has been basically parroting Russian Today talking points, which is very bizarre to hear them in English, the exact same wording that Russian I hear and I heard for like 10 years, but in English. So it's very obvious for me. I can like really catch the genuine people in America who kind of support, who kind of like are simping for Russia, or maybe think, but they don't talk like that. They have
Yeah.
they have their own lexicon,
What
their
would
own like
you
opinions that are.
I'm curious as to
Mhm.
the difference between that. What's a good giveaway between a shill and someone who is genuinely got some weird ideas about Russia, right? Like they're not a liar or anything. They just genuinely support him. What is there any
Can be
tells?
It can be a bit difficult sometimes because those people who are genuine also may pick up propaganda talking points. They just don't understand that it's propaganda talking points, but they can pick them up. But genuinely, if you talk with those people, you see they don't know much about the conflict or about the region. So they would repeat talking points sometimes about NATO. They would repeat like things they genuinely assume like about this part of the world or something. But if a person is fixating on a very particular things that are often repeated in Russian propaganda, for example, like bomb Donbass, right? So this is like they bring it up, or they will bring up like as of all the time, right? Like Azov battalion, for example, right? Those are like very particular points that they just hammer on with like no rhyme or reason. They just bring them up, then you can usually tell that they are propaganda doing, or they're like a shield, as you would say, because also very particular things, fixations on 2014, for example, not talking about 2020, 22 and what is going on now at all, but talking primarily about 2014. For example, if someone is screeching that Maidan revolution was a coup, like endlessly, they just wouldn't stop, then
Sure.
you might actually see a shell in front of you.
Oh, I don't know
So not
though. Like,
obvious.
look, I remember having conversations
Mhm,
before I was streaming, right? And
mhm.
very communist, tanky. Um, there's
Oh,
just a
those
certain
fuckers.
type.
Those are believers. I'm talking
Yeah.
about right wingers.
Okay.
Those
Okay. Fair enough.
fuckers. No, that's a whole other like. That that
Okay, because
that
I hear
can
that
of
all the
worms.
time from that
Yeah,
side, right? Like
yeah.
it was a
No,
coup,
those
etc.
people. I rarely being paid. They're rarely shills because nobody pays them because they're irrelevant assholes. Nobody cares about. So yeah, because of that, they genuine most of the time. Not always.
Okay.
Not always. Sometimes you will get catch like a
Sure.
Hinkles.
The
So
Hinkles
that's
of
a
the world,
shill.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, but with the like a larger audience, that's pretty
Mm-hmm.
fucking obvious. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but other people tend to be like communists by faith, by religious affiliation. So yeah,
I got you. Speaking
um,
of getting paid,
yeah.
speaking of getting paid, $5 from Skilltree Gaming to ask. Did Ukraine expect Russia to have such an appetite to accept losses? I think they're willing to lose 2 million people. And that is a good question, right? Did Ukraine think that this would be, that that Russia would be as willing to throw their people into the meat grinder as they have been?
It's a interesting question because I can both answer yes and no for different people. So some people not are surprised, but were surprised, let's say, because just genuinely you think like, why, it's just emotional reaction, like such a loss of like life of their own people at the end of the day. Like I hate those fuckers, the invaders, but they're people, right? So the loss of their lives is just seems so just incomprehensibly stupid. Like, just why would you do that? But if you have any historical knowledge about how Russia conducts their wars, their like invasions, their even like the defensive efforts, whatever the fuck, right? It's always a meat grinder. It's always is. So the losses are humongous. Like, for example, the best example I can come up with, like, obviously, like people talk about World War II, things like that. But many people participated in that, obviously, not just Russians, like Ukrainians and everyone else. But that's a whole other thing. But for example, Winter War, right? When Russia and
With
Soviet Union
Finland?
invaded Finland.
Yeah, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So Finnish losses were like fraction of a size of Russian losses in aid, in military, in equipment, in humans, in everything, right? So it's a very common way of Russians to conduct war with humongous losses of life and
And
equipment and everything.
that's
So
true, and that's interesting that you brought out the Winter War because I think there might unfortunately be a few parallels between Ukraine and the Winter War
yeah,
that I
that's
am
why I
concerned
brought
about.
it up. Yeah.
Um, in the end, Russia, it, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they end up gaining territory? I mean, they took tremendous losses,
A little bit,
but
10%.
yeah,
So what they got was what they initially managed to take.
yes.
So that was basically what they managed to get. And this Finnish people put up just an extraordinary like effort to fight
Oh,
the
absolutely.
country, like unironically 100 times their size back in the day, to which always gives me enthusiasm, because it's not 100 times our size, but 30 times our size.
Yeah.
So that's also something to keep in mind, right? So but unfortunately, yes, they had to made a decision to give away that 10% simply because it was incredibly hard and they didn't have much aid, Finnish people. So conducting that effort was extraordinary hard, and they took this opportunity to basically, accept this. And that part was ruined thoroughly as well. So it's not that it doesn't make it a loss any less valuable, of course, but they made a decision like that to stop, anything further.
Yeah.
Plus other shit was going down.
Well, yeah,
World
sure.
War Two. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So because of that, they also, by the way, used World War Two a little bit to get a bit back. So they allowed Germans, for example, to cross from there to attack Soviets, and then they like we say 𝕵𝖔𝖎𝖙, I don't know English version, but like sneakily, basically took back that part using Nazis, by the way. Which I mean, you do what you gotta do, you know.
I mean
Yeah,
that's true. I won't get too far into that. But I did
yeah,
want
that's a
to,
whole other thing. But yeah,
yeah, I did want to ask about, and I guess the
I'm
unless you have
just
more
saying I'm not judging because I would, if I was them, I would
sure.
unironically let like a Satan's army march through. I don't believe in the devil, but like the
No,
joke,
I
like
get you.
to
Any
just
you're
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, anything,
Um,
yeah.
I guess
Mhm.
unless you have something more to say about Tucker, I do want to move on to kind of like the state of play in Ukraine and like where
Uh,
we're at.
I mean, I think I said what I like. What's that song? Bitch, I said what I said. That American song. Yeah, so basically I said that because I was against it because I expected the propaganda piece, and that's what they wanted to do, and it kind of sort of still what they did. But you can see like the supermarket videos and the the metro station videos and all that cringe. But at the end of the day, Putin, kind of, thank you Putin, I guess you wouldn't hear me say that often. He kind of like kind of
Flip it.
went out of this, yeah, went out of his way to be as unhinged as kind of like sort of reasonably possible, without screeching like kill those Ukrainians. As aside from that, he did a good job at not making this piece successful bit of propaganda, in my opinion. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Poor Tucker, honestly.
Poor Tucker. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
he's made his bed. He gets to lie in it.
I'm joking, obviously.
Fair
That
enough.
was my Eastern European way of saying "fuck you." So
Noted.
yeah.
Noted. See, I'm not. We
Hmm.
don't have the same culture, so it's a little different. Like, but I wanted to speaking of like current events and things Tucker has said, because Tucker
Hmm.
commented on this, and I know you don't maybe have much to say on this, but I think it happened today, so it's worth bringing up. Alexei
Навальный.
Navalsky. How
Yeah.
do you say this guy's name?
Навальный, Навальный,
Navalny. Thank
Навальный.
you. Um,
Kind of,
what are
sort
your
of.
what are your thoughts here? Right? What are your thoughts
um,
here?
my thoughts are, I don't know what the fuck he expected Navalny when he returned to Russia. Because I genuinely don't know. Like, I understand the guy got poisoned, even outside of Russia, then returned to Russia, got jailed, and died. So yeah. Uh, on that note, I have no idea what was going on in his head. What
Hmm.
was the plan? Because in Russian, opposition doesn't live. So yeah, people like who are genuine opposition to Putin, not like Navalny style of opposition, but actually great person not named Nemtsov, who was to me one of the best people in Russia, and he got shot right in front of Kremlin. So yeah, so basically opposition is either walks out of windows, drinks some suspicious tea every now and then. So yeah, so people die, and it happens in Russia a lot, and it has been happening. Putin has been sniping out the any potential opposition, literally. That even fucking Prigozhin, which is like a whole other like story, but still, like people fly out of planes, they die. So yeah, so I don't know what Navalny in particular wanted. There was, in my opinion, very much no other end. So I'm not gonna say that the version Russians put out that it was like a thromb, how it's called in English, that he had like died of the
Throat
turn,
cancer?
like heart.
Thyroid?
I don't know how it's called. Thyroid? Whatever the fuck it's called in English. The version they put out, it's called Trom in our language. I don't know how it's called in your language. Basically, he died out of on his own. Let's put like that. Like it was a
Natural
quick death.
causes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So illnesses, sicknesses, whatever fuck. We did see him looking pretty sickly and thin. The videos he put out
Russian
before
prison will
this
do that
happened.
to you. But yeah.
Yeah, so I have no idea. Maybe she genuinely had like worsening of the health conditions. Maybe they killed him. also possible. And how the fuck can I know? Nobody can actually know at the end of the day. So yeah, I do think that it's a bit of a, I guess, blow for Russian reputation, because Americans have been, for some unknown reason to me, pushing Navalny pretty hard. They like nominated a movie about him on Oscars, like of all
Well,
things,
I mean, you don't
which made
like. I understand he said some yikesy things, right? I understand not all his stances are
is
good,
it,
but
that's just very, it's a very that's a very inaccurate representation of what Navalny said, but okay. Yeah, so at the end of the day, I understand that Americans wanted like some sort of Russian hero, quote unquote. So they wanted some sort of like a less disgusting figure, and there is not much of them in Russia left, unfortunately, because all the good people Putin killed, like I said. So if you want to elevate some sort of opposition to Putin, some sort of political maybe power or future or alternative to Putin, I guess, then you have to pick someone. And they picked, I suppose, Navalny. And that I can understand, because who else? Like, I don't have any other alternatives for people to pick, honestly. So it's, I can judge in that sense. But of course, Ukrainians hate the guy because he's an imperialist chauvinist cunt that celebrated annexation of Crimea, that thinks of literally calls us racial slurs every chance he gets. So I'm not upset,
fair enough.
but yeah,
Fair enough.
but it's
I get it,
expected. It's
right?
expected. Yeah.
In 2021, Biden um said that if Navalny died in prison, that Russia
Oh
would
yeah, there have these
face
consequences or something, right?
terrible,
Yeah.
devastating consequences. What do you think?
I'm waiting.
Well, first of all, do you think that Biden will keep his word there? And what
No,
if no, you don't think so? No?
no,
No?
no. I think they will do the Western thing. The Western thing
What's
is,
a Western
it's
thing?
so
Tell me.
so very concerning. Oh my god, that's very concerning. That's the Western thing.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that's
No,
it.
I feel you, right? Like, oh, this
That's
bears
bad. That's
looking
bad. Don't
into.
do that. Yeah,
Wag our
that's very
fingers.
suspicious. Interesting. The Elon Musk thing, you can also do the Elon Musk. Suspicious, interesting. So yeah, so you can do that. I think people would be like, "Oh, that's bad. Russia kills opposition," but Russia always killed opposition, like always. Like entire Putin career is murder of opposition. So yeah, I'm not don't think it will be like any substantially different. Maybe it will only be different because of how much hype Navalny got in the United States. So people like unironically know who he is,
Yeah.
and they got fucking Wolverine actor Hugh Jackman do a video about poor Navalny. So yeah, how glorious Navalny is. I think some American dude there compared him to, just forgive me for even saying that, but to Nelson Mandela, which
Did
make
he?
like every person in the world cringe. So I think that person should be prosecuted and arrested. No, I'm joking, but
Yeah.
that's just the comparison is just offensive to Nelson Mandela,
Fair enough.
honestly.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
So anyhow, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, honestly.
What would you say to those people who are comparing? And I've seen this on my timeline, right? I've seen people saying, well, and these are Westerners. So, in that context,
Oh
most
yeah.
Westerners aren't aware of his comments towards Ukrainians and to Crimea and things like that. Most Westerners just aren't.
Well, that's
Um,
not reason to die, obviously. I'm
sure,
not
sure,
I'm
sure.
not saying
But
that was a, yeah.
the reason I bring that up is because even in that context, right, there are a lot of Westerners on the right wing, right, that I've seen on my
Hmm.
timeline compare his death or murder, right? Might be murder, we don't know.
Oh, I
His
don't know, yeah.
death to what happened to 𝕼𝖍 in Ukraine. Can you, first of all, can you educate my audience a little bit on who this guy was, what
Aw,
happened there,
Gonzalo
and
Lira.
can you kind of paint the picture here? Go for it.
Poor guy. Well, anyhow, poor is thing is that Gonzalo Lira is a very interesting person. You can't take this from him, okay? So he was, I suppose, some sort of red pill coach, dating coach in the United States. I don't know much
Coach
about
Red
his.
Pill, for those of you who don't know the name. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
So
who we're
he
talking
was
about.
doing
All
like
right.
sort of like advice how to ban 18-year-olds, I think. So that's what his career, I suppose, was. Then, as far as I know, he was like kind of like not convicted but accused. Yeah, accused is the word. Accused of some sort of like sexual misconduct in the United States. And after that, he came to Ukraine before the full-scale invasion. By the way, it happened before. So he found himself here, some sort of like wife, I suppose, like it's a whole thing, And he lived here and talked about how, I don't know, like how to ban Slavic 18-year-olds now. I don't know. Yeah. So, but then the full scale invasion happened, and that's when things get interesting because he requalified from dating red pill coach to Russian propaganda machine. So he started to basically call Ukrainians, Nazis, call Zelensky Nazi, call it a regime, a dictatorship, despite the fact that it's a democratically elected government in the president, but whatever. Yeah, so then he started talking about how my city is not bombed while it was bombed, which is the biggest hate have for this person is for this. When he was making videos and he was talking publicly to Westerners saying like Russia is very like nice and cool, they don't bomb Ukrainian cities, meanwhile my city is 30% of it is gone, it's ruins. So of course you're sitting like under bombs trying to not fucking die, and this gun sits there and just records videos about it's not happening while he of course hears that it's
Yes, yes.
happening. So it's like the biggest lie you can possibly, here like physically at risk himself, and he makes those lies. That's a whole other thing. So that was what he was doing, and he got himself a little bit of a visit of 𝕵𝖎, which is like Ukrainian defense secret like services basically, and they gave him a warning. They said, dude, you're like in a war zone. If you didn't notice, there's like martial law. So you are spewing out enemy propaganda, and you are undermining the war effort, because he not only he spewed Russian propaganda, he also filmed soldiers, for example. He distributed, as far as I know, even a location
Yeah, he was feeding
of
info to the Russians basically through
yes,
his
so that's
media thing. Yeah.
illegal.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's like breaking of law, and it especially is a bad move in a country at war, like martial law and everything. So they issued him a warning, and they were like, maybe like fuck off to the United States, perhaps. Like that would be a good idea, I think. He didn't listen. Sad story of not listening, and not only they then arrested him, so there's a whole footage of him getting arrested in his disgusting ass apartment. Bro didn't like flush the toilet. It's not right. Anyhow, point is, his disgusting apartment, he was very gently, taken. They filmed the entire process, so there would be no like they beating him up or something. So they took him very gently to, to prosecution, and he was given a home arrest warrant, and he was released to his disgusting apartment and given a home arrest while the investigation is happening. So honestly, they treated him way better than they would treated any Ukrainian given sensitive information to Russia. I suppose because he's American, and American citizens usually get much better treatment
Certainly, yeah.
here, uh, and green lighted everywhere. So they got him, instead of like straight up, arresting him and throwing him to jail, they gave him a home arrest. And they were like, chill the fuck out, like the investigation is happening. And I do sincerely believe they would still wanted to get him back to the United States after that, to be honest, because that's what we usually tend to do with foreigners, because nobody wants that,
Extradite them to their
trouble.
to the yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just leave them. Yeah, let's
Especially
go back to
since,
with it.
the US was giving aid to Ukraine, and if
Of
Yeah,
course,
there's a
yes, of
lot of
course.
reasons.
Yeah.
But carry on, please.
Nobody wants like this complicated stuff like on their hands, especially during wartime. But Gonzalo Lira, being a smart one, he decided to run away and also publish his running away plan. The only thing he didn't do is he didn't publish his bus ticket, because that would be truly glorious, but he avoided that. He kind of like just mapped out his escape plan, from which country he plans to escape, Hungary, I believe. And he also reported on Twitter his location. So our services were like, what the fuck? And they came and arrested the guy again and didn't let him go this time. They didn't let him go to the home arrest thing because, well, how long can you coddle, a dude? He might be American, but still. So, and by the way, I would like to point out to your audience that his actions are very serious. So I'm making light of them just for funsies. But his his actions are very serious because posting the locations of our equipment, of our troops, is endangering the troops, the equipment that America, by the way, quite a lot of it sends us, is endangering all of that, risking a strike from Russia, and it also endangers civilians that are in the area. So that's a serious thing. It's not jokey, But so at the end of the day, he ended up being going through the investigation here, and then he was probably kept in a regular Ukrainian prison, which is not the best. Let me be there. So his health condition worsened significantly, and he has been reporting that for a while, I suppose. Maybe a month or something. Like he was saying that he has like breathing
Yeah,
problems
yeah.
and things like that. So I have a friend of mine who is he works in the services, and I asked him about Gonzalo Lira. He didn't say much, but he did say that he had COVID, so
Oh,
doctors at
okay.
least diagnosed him with that. So some sort of like double pneumonia complications that has to do with him being unvaccinated because he was famously anti-vax, and also has to do with the fact that he was a very heavy smoker. He smoked like
Mm.
a bajillion cigarettes
Mm-hmm.
per day, which all of that I think caused some sort of complications. So the guy kind of died. That's kind of what happened with Gonzalo Lira. And at the end of the
Well,
day, the moral
yeah.
of the story is don't be like Gonzalo Lira.
Well, the accusation leveled by the right, is that there's no difference between Zelensky and Putin, because Zelensky had this guy killed. That's their accusation. Um,
Well,
any truth to that?
I mean, if we unironically are going to address this, then first of all, I have no proof that Putin killed Navalny. First of
Sure,
all, so we
sure.
only are making a speculation here, and I also have absolutely no reason to suspect that Zelensky himself killed Gonzalo Lira. Funny, fuck it. You probably never knew about the guy existed, but that's like whole other story. So we can't compare those two things simply because Navalny was an active opposition political leader of the political party, while Gonzalo Lira was a fucking creep American, no offense, who came here to
None
ban
taken.
Slavic chicks and then got himself into propaganda machine of Russia, and then violated law, violated martial law, violated international law, I suppose, violated all sorts of laws, and then unfortunately died. I would prefer
Mm.
him to die somewhere else, if I'm honest, but I would very much prefer him to even probably return to United States. And that's what everyone preferred when they issued two fucking one warning, one home arrest, one everything. So he wasn't just unlawfully imprisoned by some phony
I
accusations that
I
was
I
made.
I
Eh,
believe
and
you, right? Like I believe you,
it,
and the reason I'm bringing this up, and the reason I'm stressing it, and the reason I'm specifically asking it is so that it can be addressed.
mm,
Because a lot of times, what happens is in these conversations that people accuse us of having is like, "Oh, you're just doing a propaganda puff piece for Ukraine," but I
yeah,
really
yeah,
do
of
want
course,
to
yeah.
know, right? I want to
Mhm.
know like what's the
Yeah. So the
what
biggest
actually
difference,
happened. Yeah.
of course, is that Gonzalo Lira, thank fuck, was not a candidate. to Ukraine's president. He was not the political leader of any kind, and yeah, you could scarcely call him a journalist. So at the end of the day, that's completely different. You can talk about like prosecution, I guess, of press or like some
Yeah,
sort of
like
thing. But again, yeah, but press, Navalny is not press.
mm,
So that's a completely different issue. That's a political opponent prosecution. That's a little bit of a different whole game. That's first. And second of all, being press, quote unquote, and being journalist doesn't allow you to break law. It also doesn't allow you to do propaganda bits for the enemy of the country you're in. It's and most importantly, doesn't allow you to give that enemy the locations of our troops.
that's
And the
the
guy,
thing. That's the thing. I
the
agree
guy
with you on
posted it.
that. The propaganda stuff,
Mhm,
I think we might have a disagreement there. I think that is
mhm.
disgusting as it is. I think people should be allowed to make propaganda for the enemy. But once you're reporting troop
Not here.
locations,
Yeah.
once
He
you're
has to
doing
respect
that,
our law,
then
right?
you can go to jail,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know
And
Ukrainian
not
law. I'm not familiar with it, right? So
plus let me point this quite clear. He was not arrested or even get any warning for doing propaganda bits for a very long time. So he has been saying that Kharkiv is not bombed. He has been accusing Zelensky of being like a Nazi regime. He has been doing all sorts of bits, and nobody touched him. So he was just doing it without any like consequences. But as soon as he stepped into the zone of being actually compromising our war effort, that's when he got himself attention.
no,
So
I get you. I'm with you on that.
yeah, I mean
Um,
that was shitty. That
yeah,
was shitty, but it's not like at the end of the world, right?
yeah.
But if you endanger troops and people in the country you're staying
In
in
America too,
martial
right?
law,
That's the same in
you
America.
know,
If you were
yeah,
feeding troop locations or sensitive information to one of our enemies, such as China, Russia, etc., you will also go to
and you are
jail, as
not
several people have
and
found
you
out.
are not at war with them.
Yeah,
You're not actively at war with them. I believe it if you were actively at war, it would be even a harsher sort of thing. So yeah, so it's like crime regardless. But if the country is actively at war with each other, that's a whole other game. So yeah, so we have unfortunately like obviously right some sort of like traitor actions going on in Ukraine
absolutely.
as well. So
Yeah.
some yeah, so some people like do that. They give Russians like addresses or like coordinates of something, and then
Is that
missiles hit
widespread
those people.
in Ukraine?
I won't say widespread, but it does happen. It
Hmm.
happens everywhere. So yeah, in every war there are like traitors, and there are like people who get paid or ideologically driven people of some sort. And unfortunately, the consequences of that are quite drastic. So yeah, and we live on. It's a very modern war as well, which is something to keep in mind because everything is on the internet, GPS, like Sputnik, how it's called in English, like satellite. Yeah,
Hmm.
satellite sort of thing, and everything is everywhere. People take pictures, videos of things they shouldn't. That's dick to Ukrainians, but they film things they shouldn't. So that is showing the enemy sensitive, important
Hmm.
information. So people do a lot of that stuff because unfortunately we live in the era when everyone has an iPhone or like a phone with a smartphone with a
Yes.
camera. Everything is on the internet. It's much more. It's weird. It's a weird time to have war.
So, a couple questions from my audience.
I
They're
think the
asking
air
me.
rate.
Hmm? Oh,
Just wait a second. I need to check the
yeah.
air
Make sure
rate
you're not gonna
again.
go
So
blown up. If you need to go, I understand. Just
no.
prioritize your
Think
safety.
my phone says that there are no missile strikes prepared from Belgorod, which is the city that bombs my city from Russia. So I think I'm good. They bomb someone else now, not me.
Well, I'm
So
glad that you're
yeah,
more safe
yeah,
now. I don't know
yeah.
about being
Someone
glad that they're bombing
someone
someone
else is
else, but you know
dying.
what I mean.
Someone else is dying. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you. My audience is asking me to ask you about Arestovich. Um, what are your
Aristovich.
Arestovich?
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Again, this stream I'm going to mispronounce everything, so bear with me, but
That's
we're gonna
fine.
try. So and also recently,
What about him?
yeah, well, I'm just not sure what they're asking me here.
My
𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙𝖘𝖍𝖔𝖜.
opinion, maybe, or something.
Yeah. I do know that recently, let me look. I had this up here. Bear with me.
I mean, he
Recent
has been on sort of
hmm.
like a whole ass trip of leaving the country during war and doing silly interviews in France and being sort of like not pro-Russian, obviously, but kind of like playing the both side in a little bit. I mean, Arestovich was never truly a politician. He was a popular figure involved in politics. So
Mm.
that's a bit of a different game. So some people spread disinformation of him being the advisor officially to the president, which is not true.
Okay.
So yeah, he can say whatever the hell he wants. It's his right, I suppose. But yeah, it's mostly his recent bits have been a bit disappointing to say the least. But he has never been really our, you know, a politician, so to speak, at all. He was
Let
never
me
in the government.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Let me ask
I don't know what else to say.
also about the recent and again I don't have the I had the names up. I don't know what I did with that tab, but recently Zelensky replaced the commander.
Zaluzhny.
Yes.
Hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that? First of all, why was he replaced? And how do you feel about this? How do the troops feel about this? What are some of your thoughts there? Go ahead.
It's a bit of a, complicated subject. It's a hot topic of the conversation in Ukraine. So because of that, it's a bit. I mean, I'm not saying like opinion of everyone this time because this
I'm
opinion
asking
differs.
I'm asking
Yeah,
Anna's
yeah.
opinion here. Go ahead.
I would say I can say you like three things that what I hear from people and what I hear from civilians, what I hear from soldiers, and just my own opinion. That's like three things I can highlight. So majorly, Zaluzhny is very popular in Ukraine. So he has a very high support and very high trust amongst the population. I'd say higher than Zelensky himself, which is not to say that Zelensky is distrusted or people hate him. He has quite a high approval rating,
Certainly,
but
yes.
Zaluzhny is even bigger, perhaps because he became sort of like, I don't know. It's a cultural context. I don't know if you need that, but maybe that's interesting because you speak from a person who's actually here, and can give you some context. But there's like this trait in Ukrainian people that we notoriously despise politicians, like vehemently, like with burning passion. We are
Fair.
never satisfied. We always hate them, and Zelensky was one first like president that unironically more people actually genuinely liked. So that's like a historical event in Ukraine. And Zaluzhny, by many Ukrainians, they don't feel that he's a politician. So they kind of like hold on to him because they don't really feel he's a politician. It's like one of like us, it's like a commander of the army, but one of the
The
people, not
people,
one of
yeah, one
those,
of the yeah, I get you. I get
yeah,
you.
politicians. Yeah. So because of that, he enjoys much more support, and also because of him being, of course, quite effective commander. Because if he wasn't for him, then quite a lot of things might have gone poorly. Especially because you perhaps remember, but at the beginning of invasion in February 24, uh, everyone predicted we would be like 3 days and Kiev would be taken.
Yeah, yeah.
Those predictions have been overthrown, and many people, of course, it's because of the all Ukrainian people who went enlisted, who the army, the people, the
Mm-hmm.
volunteers, everyone, the Western support that followed later. But Zaluzhny also gets quite a lot of credit because of just giving people hope and actual real like feel that this can be won, and this
So
can be, at the
yeah,
very least, we can repel people, Russian invasion, right? So
absolutely.
because of that, people love him. That's the context. But when it comes to the replacement, it's a controversial subject
What's this
because
guy's
so
name?
many people
Siersky,
trust him.
Siersky. How do you say his
Seriously,
name?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Syrskyi.
Sierski. Thank you. Continue.
Good enough. So yeah, so yeah, because of that, you basically have this person who people don't love and who they don't trust because they don't know much about him, and this is a provocative decision in Ukraine. But at the end of the day, most people either feel like that's a bit of a people are a bit anxious. Let's say they're anxious because of the how it will affect the war, how it will affect the front, how it will affect the soldiers. And we all, most of us, have someone we love who serves now in the army. So, how it will affect your friend, your brother, your father, your loved one, whatever, right? So, of course, it's a very, because of that, it's a very, like, anxious filled time right now. But there are black pillars, so to speak, who are like doomer about it. They are like, oh no, it's like the end of the war, like Zaluzhny. Without Zaluzhny, we will all die. Those people exist, but I don't support their like doomerism. I want to give Syrskyi a chance first of all to see how he will perform before I judge. And first of all, that's first of all. Second of all, I'm not a commander. I have no education in
Certainly.
military anything, so I can't judge why the Zaluzhny was replaced. Is it a sensible replacement? Is it not a sensible replacement? Was it needed? Was it not needed? I can't tell. And every regular civilian who is now doomering and pretending to be a war expert also doesn't know, to be honest with you, because just we don't have an education, we don't have an understanding of how military operations are conducted.
That's probably I thank you for being honest about that. There's a lot of people who come on my show and pretend to be armchair generals, so to speak.
I
Right?
don't know.
So yeah, no,
I
I don't know is
volunteer. I'm not a
a great
military
answer.
general. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
so that's my dig at people who pretend to be,
Fair
who
enough.
pretend to be. But yeah, but other than that, the soldiers themselves, and ironically, the opinion I'm more interested in what soldiers are saying. Like I rarely talk with the commanders. I have like two or three that I know. The rest of them are usually like soldiers, more regular type of people, and the opinions there kind of split. There's an opinion of people who are a bit anxious that Syrskyi will use more aggressive methods.
When
So
you say,
basically, he will,
if I pause on that because I want to interrogate that a
yeah.
little bit, um, they're
Hmm.
anxious that they're going to use more aggressive methods compared to the spring
Zalužny.
offensive that Zelensky
Not exactly like,
or
for example, how to explain this? For example, counteroffensives that were conducted in Kharkiv, which is my region where I live, were very effective. We managed to liberate the entire region, but almost the entire region, like a little bit of it is still occupied, but very, very little. So it's like 3% or something, I think. So at the end of the day, Syrskyi participated in that, by the way. He was one of the people who were commanding this effort. So that sounds good when you think about it. Like it was a very awesomely liberated. Me and Dylan actually talked with people who participated in liberation, Kraken people in Kharkiv and everyone. We did a pretty good video on that with the commander of Kraken, which is one of those commanders I know. So yeah. So basically, I asked him as well. so so yeah. So basically, people say that there is this anxiety of him using more aggressive strategies that will not take into the consideration the safety and preservation of our soldiers. So that's basically, some people say meat waves, like what Russia does,
yeah, the
basically
meat
just
grinder
throwing the
thing. They're
soldiers.
worried that he's going to be just
Yeah, yeah.
casual with the Ukrainian lives. I understand.
Yes, yes. That's a worry. So that's a worry among soldiers as well. But there are also soldiers who say that the new vision, new strategy, and new like blood basically wasn't also needed because of the completely different style of war that we are dealing with now. So things we were dealing with in spring, things we were dealing with like in the counteroffensives of Kherson liberation, Kharkiv region, right? It was a completely different war effort because now we are fighting against them in the positions where they have 3 lines of defense when they have been like sitting there for I don't know like years even before like this new wave of stuff like even Donbass for example has been occupied since fuck knows like 2014 like for a long time. So we're dealing with a completely different thing, and we have now shortage unfortunately with weapons, with equipment, and it's very felt already by soldiers. So we can't really plan much because of the shortage, because our soldiers say that to plan you need to know how much of the stuff you get, right?
Yeah,
what do
logistics. You
what do
need
you
to
have
be
in.
able to
Yeah,
to
yeah,
know how many troops, men, and material you need in this location, equipment and material you need in this location,
exactly, yeah.
and how much do you have to work with, and how much are you going to be able to sustain in a push defensive. I understand that,
Yes,
but
yes, yes, exactly. Yeah. For example, they say like if you want to like attack, let's say something like within Russian position or like a base or something, you really need to know how much of that ammunition, of that weaponry you have to plan those assaults, because you can't be left with nothing, right? And if you have a reliable supply that you can count on, then you can actually calculate how much can you waste, how much can you try to use it, how much can you like actually. But now we really don't know, because it's been I think 14 months since we received anything from the US, so anything substantial, right? So
yes,
Europe this year kind of like became better finally. So this in 2020, in 23, right? European Union gave us more than United States, whereas in 2022 United States definitely like dominated in terms of like supply. But this
absolutely.
time around, definitely European Union, which is good. It's good that they
Uh,
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 got their shit together, I
no, that's
suppose.
good,
European
but
Union.
I guess I'm.
But
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Anyhow, point is that we experience pretty severe shortages, pretty severe deficit. For example, Avdiivka right now, which is a very hot spot, and we are maybe on the verge of losing there. Maybe we don't know like for sure, but the guys are encircled, and they have equipment deficit 1 to 8. So on one of our like let's say like something like I don't know HIMARS or something like that, right?
Sure.
On one of that, there are 8 of those in Russian positions. So there are 15,000 soldiers right now, Russian soldiers, just in that little spot, and they have 10 times more men than we do there. But the equipment is definitely something that can be felt, because judging by analysis that were made, we at some point even have advantage on them in military equipment, not in people. People are always less. It's Russia,
Certainly.
but advantage in military equipment. Now we have a deficit. So that's
Mm.
very, very, very rough on us. So because of all of that, changing of the general, of the commander, like of the army, might be a good thing, but it also might be a thing caused by, let's say, desperation of some sort. That's also a
And
possibility that
yeah,
cannot be denied.
I have a
So
I have
yeah.
a couple questions on both of those
Hmm.
fronts that I want to ask you if I may. But before I do that, let me get through a couple super chats. And gang,
Hmm.
I can't do this for free. Much like Ukraine needs funding, I need funding. So can and we
Yes,
don't have
fund week.
Republicans blocking on my funding. At least not yet. So if you've enjoyed the content, please continue super chatting. Throw some gift subs my way. It helps me have these conversations. But let's get to it. $2 from Testicle Johnson to ask, do you like banana bread with or without nuts?
I actually fucking love banana bread, and I did with anything, nuts, schmutz, whatever,
Oh,
right? I
okay.
like all of it. But thing is, it's a very American thing. So we only got it very, very recently. Like people started doing it, like in cafes and like bakeries and everything. And we were like, "What the fuck? That's so good!" Like, yeah. But
Oh, so this
nobody
is
like
new?
actually
Is
like.
this introduced like
Yes,
just recently to you guys? Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
I'd say so. Yes. So it's not like particularly popular, because it's just such a, you know, Western thing, right? American thing. But like proper hipsters, no banana bread. But that's like very, you know, how to say this? Like people with dyed hair know it, okay?
Fair enough. Fair enough. And this is $5 from Infallible Fowl to ask you this. When you said, what was he, Navalny, thinking going into Russia? Some would say the same to you living inside of a war zone. So how would you respond to that?
No.
Fair enough.
No, someone wouldn't. Yeah, yeah, because simply because it's my home, I work here, there's my
Mhm,
family here, my friends are here, and Navalny had his entire family not jailed in Russia, thankfully, for him. And also, I'm not a politician. I'm not an opposition to a political dictator, to a authoritarian dictator. Sorry, not political, to authoritarian dictator. So
mhm, mhm.
it's a bit of a different issue. Like I don't expect to be arrested anytime soon in my country, which Navalny kind of should have expected. I'm not saying there is no reason for him to go there. Of course, he can be this like martyr figure. He might have maybe wanted to be this sort of like a, I don't know, like show that he's serious, I guess, with his like Putin, anti-Putin, whatever the fuck plan he had, right? So I'm not saying what was he thinking was not like there is no reason for him to go there. It was mostly
Sure.
like it's kind of like expectable result. The result he got is the one everyone kind of expected. So I'm not sure, to be honest with you, what his plan was at all.
Fair enough.
So yeah.
Now a couple of questions from me. One would be
Mm-hmm.
this. Uh, oh, I see you. Apparently, Strisky just announced that Ukrainian forces are withdrawing from Avdiivka.
Yeah. Just
Apparently,
now? I
according
didn't
to
know
my
that.
chat, and try grain of salt, gang. But chat is saying this just now. I don't know if this is
Uh-huh.
true.
Yeah.
I will double check when I get a chance. But I do have a
We
question.
expected that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do have a
Many
question.
people expected that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, do
Mm-hmm.
Ukrainians feel betrayed by the U.S. and the fact that they have had blockages in getting uh, aid to them from the Republican Party?
Damn. Yeah. I don't know. You want my like
Uh,
100%
yeah,
honest
100%
answer, right?
honest, but we're here to be honest, Miss Anna.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah, they do. Yeah. Most people do. And I wish I could say otherwise, but I really can't. So most people recent like weeks especially when this like blocking oh fuck, I lost my headphone. Just a second.
I'll take your time.
Uh it fell off. It's there those headphones, they are for much bigger ears. So they fall out of holes. So yeah, whatever. Anyhow, point is that many people felt like how to say this. Ah, well, at the beginning, to be quite honest with you, Ukrainians are a bit of a sometimes are a bit naive in the sense that they see the West in a bit more pink light. Is that a phrase? In a bit more like in a bit more like not idealizing exactly, but
Yeah,
that's
like
the
a
word that
they
came
can
to
do no
mind.
wrong type. This is a utopias kind of deal, right? I get what you're saying,
Sort
I
of.
think.
Yeah. Yeah, not exactly that. Of course, we understand that there are some like fuck ups and problems in every country, right? And the best way to put it probably would be not idealizing, but it's what we're striving at to be. So this is like
Yes.
the example,
The
and it's a good
aspirational
example.
goal. I get you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So the democracy, the institutions, the human rights, like freedom of speech, things like that. Those are like aspirational things that we want to sort of kind of ally ourselves with and to become that it's some capacity, right? So anti-corruption things, right? So that's mostly people look to not to America per se, but to European Union, which is a bit, more appropriate and closer in the goals. So we are in Europe after all. So that's of course something that like Poland, things like that, perhaps. So because of that, there is like this a bit of a like pink tinted glasses. Oh, I remember the place. Happy with myself. Pink tinted tinted
Rose
glasses.
tinted
Some people,
glasses, but close
yeah.
enough. We'll go with it.
Oh, fuck yeah, fuck yeah. Correct me. I want to know the phrase. Rose tinted glasses, right? So some people know, look at it like that. And that's something I just want to put out there, right? And when you guys, in particular, United States, kind of don't uh, live up to this image, people get upset. Which, I mean, it might sound childish, but that's just how it is,
It's not I get
And
upset when we don't, to be clear with you. I get upset. I think it's shameful that we have failed
mm,
Ukraine in this. Like the city of Divka
I
that's being
appreciate it.
abandoned
Yeah.
right now, that's on us.
Hmm.
That's on us. You
Partially.
guys were
I
in
don't
the
want to.
shit
Yeah.
doing what you needed to do to protect your country. Our deal, our part of the deal was to give you the weapons and the ammo you needed, and we failed you. And so
Yeah.
on behalf of all the United States, because I am the representative right now, apologize.
Um, of-
That's
I appreciate it
yeah,
truly. I know that people, like many people, support us still, and there are people like not politicians who are actually like very still pro Ukraine and support Ukraine, obviously, right? But of course, it has been a bit of a um, the war effort itself is much harder than it ever was now, which we expected. It's much harder to, get them in those positions than it was in the ones they just recently took and didn't fortify at all, right?
absolutely.
So of course it's harder, yeah, but also it's just like those counteroffensives that are now started like this since like springtime, I suppose. So much death, and like I can tell, like as a volunteer, for example, right, I speak with particular people who I communicate with. We
Yeah, yeah.
chat, sometimes they message me, they tell me what they need, what's going on, and a good chunk of them, like 30-40%, died now. So because of that, of course, for me it is it is very hard not to get like sometimes emotional and angry, because every delay, every it's lives, it's lives and lives of the best people, of the best people of my country. And again, because every century best people of my country get wiped out, and it's very, I just wanted to stop, I wanted to
Yeah.
end. And for that to end, we need help, because unfortunately our enemy is much bigger, like incomprehensibly
Mm.
bigger than we are, and it is a very hard fight to win on our
Does
own. It's impossible fight
yeah.
to
Does
win on our own.
Ukraine
And
on that note, if I may,
mhm.
does Ukraine have a plan B? If um it's weird because in America, most politicians want to fund you. 70%, 70 members
Yeah,
of the Senate
yes.
voted to fund you, right? A super
Yeah,
majority.
Democrats
Yes.
did good, and some
Democrats and
Republicans,
some
yeah, voted against
Republicans
them.
too. Let's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
forget them. There
Definitely.
is a super majority in the Senate and a majority in the House. It's just there's a certain block of very
A
right-wing
block of shit.
Republicans that are blocking you, right?
Yes.
But given the fact that we unfortunately the American system is how it is, fortunately actually because it does present some while it's a problem now, it actually safeguards us from other problems. Anyway, does Ukraine have a plan B if they can't get the funding from America? Like, what is your plan if, for God forbid, America just fails in its duty and continuously, and you don't get the funding you need from there? What's your plan B?
Well, and ironically, the plan is the same. We don't have like any other choice. It's just much harder. So if the US like cuts off all the funding, I don't know, like Marjorie Taylor Greene becomes the head person on deciding whether we get funding or not or something, right? If we don't get any, then the plan is just continue the fight as is. There's no other way. There's no other choice. So of course, like it's not like the like every soldier I even ever talked with, all of them say that they don't, even if there is no funding whatsoever, they will still continue the fight. It's just that it will be much bloodier, much harder. We would lose positions. They will like it will become like they pull through, we push them back. They pull through, we push them back. Like the movement of the front line will be like very chaotic. Maybe there will be some major breakthroughs somewhere that Russia might do again, and occupy more, something like that. It might be much it not might be, it will be much worse. But at the end of the day, it's not like they have a choice. Like we're not fighting on someone else's land,
Hmm.
a bit
Is
of a dig
Yeah,
at Americans, I guess.
I
We
get
are
you.
fighting at our own place. There's nowhere to go. So there is just that. And of course, we hope that Europe will pick up even more as they did in 2023, and they will be more effective in like
Well,
production, less
didn't
slow with the
Zelensky
bureaucracy.
recently? Yeah, didn't Zelensky recently sign a compact or contract with Germany? To
Yes,
continue
yes.
funding,
Yeah,
right?
that's good.
Is there any
Yeah,
other
that's
countries in Europe that they've been approaching with this or made inroads in securing long-term funding with? I'm just curious.
I think Germany, and I think we have some agreements with like UK, Great Britain. Actually, what they wanted was who gave us long range missiles that we have been begging for. I don't know for how much long. They gave us Shadow. How are they called? Shadow something.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Whatever. These are the only ones we got, like far range, long range missiles, right? That we now
Mm-hmm.
use effectively to attack like Russian industrial production of weaponry within Russia, that we use to attack their their weaponry. So
Mm-hmm.
that's very much something we need, and we have been asking for that for like planes, for long range missiles, for I don't know how long, for 2 years now. So it's a long time.
Yes.
Sometimes people are like celebrating that someone is like, there's a package that has been signed for Ukraine. Isn't that great? And that's great, but you will get that package in a year or something, you know? Until it
Oh.
actually gets to us, until it actually is like all the bureaucracy procedures, and that's fine. I mean, it's not cookies they send us, it's weapons. So it should be like, a lot of like bureaucracy, a lot of like
Checks and balances. Yeah.
processes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, check and balances and everything. But as a like person here, it's of course faster, because it's time, and time is lives. So because of that, I suppose people are a bit upset, definitely, especially with the
Mm.
Republicans.
So I am able to
Yeah.
confirm that
Mhm.
General Syrskyi has announced that Ukraine forces are withdrawing from Avdiivka. I guess
Yeah,
I would ask.
that's
So you said
that's
this was
expected. Yeah.
expected. Um, it's been fairly kind of stable, at least a lot of the lines, right? Despite the victories in the Black Sea and things like that, that I think you guys have shined at, along the kind of the front, it has kind of stalled out. Um, I wonder, like, is there any point, and what would be the point for you personally, where you would accept some sort of deal with Russia, right? Is there any off ramps to this other than taking back all your land, which aspirational goals? I hope to God that what happens. But
Mhm.
what would be the situation where you would say, okay, this we just can't do this anymore. We need to sue for peace. What would be the situation with that?
Well, they don't want it. I mean, they don't making any like efforts or anything in Russia. I mean, so it can't be from our side. First of all,
Fair.
that's one thing. Like, what's Putin is doing? He literally announced that he will take like everything, and they put like Russian flags. They announced those cities theirs. They denounce like they prohibit Ukrainian language in every place they take. So that's one thing, right? They are not making efforts to stop at all, and they didn't achieve like much compared to what they wanted to. So I suppose they will be still trying to. Have you seen this Putin speech when he proudly announces that they took 19 houses in Avdiivka?
I did. That
That's
was a surreal.
that's
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's an achievement, from taking Kiev to taking mountain houses in Avdiivka. Good job. So anyhow, point is that first of all, there has to be like some solid like guarantees, of course, because we don't trust Russia. Only a absolute moron would. So so yeah, so we can't trust them, and we definitely can't give them a chance to just refortify, recoup, and attack us in 5 year time or earlier. So what's the point of that? Like, what's the point of the sacrifice of all those people just to waste it to give them a chance to do this again?
Yeah, rearm, re-up,
And
and come back in
we
five
need
years.
to
Yeah.
have some sort of hard positions. We need to have like hard negotiation chips. We need to have in we can't be on a weaker foot in the negotiation. It's not
The wicker foot, the back
it's
foot, you mean?
backfoot, sorry.
No, it's fine.
Sorry, wick foot, wick
Mm,
foot.
yeah,
Anyhow,
I was
point
like, I
is
don't
that
know what that
yeah,
means for sure.
back foot. Yeah, we can't be on the back foot. We need to be like on some very solid. We need to be a solid adversary for them, which we are obviously, right? Because they couldn't do shit compared to what they wanted. But we do hope to achieve more. So to get more, like Crimea, of course, is a complicated question, but
Yes.
like Zaporizhia region needs to be retaken. That's not even like a conversation. Partial Donbass also is not a conversation in Ukrainian society. Crimea, sort of, maybe is a conversation at some point, but right now it's there's what's to negotiate. Like, what guarantees can we have? What where's the will to stop this from Russia? There is none. So yeah, it's not we can't be like on a the weaker partner just accepting their like their demands, because it's not gonna end well for us. Our goal is at the end of the day is the preservation of Ukrainian nation first and foremost. So that's what people the only thing people would accept is this. So the guarantees and the safety of Ukrainian nation, which nobody gives us, not Russia, not the West, not anyone. So we at the end of the day can only depend on ourselves and hope that the West will continue to provide us with tools we need to achieve that, because the will is still there. For me, the negotiation would easily be a thing if the will was not there. So if my people were like, we like can't take it anymore, we can't fight, it's not going anywhere, and we're just like dying, and there's no point. But there is no such thing. So the will is still there. If we had the tools, if we had more tools
Let me, yeah,
to whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Let
a
me ask
complicated
about the
question. Hmm.
will for a moment, because there has
Hmm.
been some people who have criticized Ukraine for putting off their elections. I remember we had you on a panel
Oh,
in the summer
yeah,
where
that's
there was
yeah.
criticized. And I hear tell that they are also pushing it back, uh the upcoming elections as well. Is that true? And yeah, what would you say to those people who are saying that we don't know that's your will because Ukraine refuses to hold elections? What would be your answer to that?
Well, it's a pretty simple answer, because Ukraine is not refusing to hold elections. There is just no point in holding the election. It also, we are doing things in accordance with our constitution. So it's not like we are doing some sort of like crazy shenanigans, going out of, breaking the constitution and everything. First of all, and second of all, we don't know yet about the elections this time around. It's not like a done deal. But
Oh,
at
so
the
there
end of
is
the
still a
day,
possibility it might happen.
yes, I don't
Interesting.
think
Okay.
so that it will, but it's not like a 100% certain. I'm not sure. At least I haven't heard like
Okay.
final word on that at least. But I struggle to comprehend how can that be possible, because simply because of the logistics, and we don't have email voting. So voting is like registered by your address, and 10 million people in Ukraine right now are living in other parts of Ukraine. So internal migration, right? And about 8 million are outside of Ukraine, so in foreign countries, right? So how do you organize that shit? I genuinely have just no comprehension. How can you even do it? So, and why it should be a priority exactly? I also don't know, because all the polls show that people support, Zaluzhny, Zelensky, all people there, and the approval rating is pretty high still. And I don't see like people wanting to change our government, because it's a bit of a scary thing to do. They may fail in war, war is the most important thing, and our government so far has been exceptionally good and effective compared to what we expected and what the rest of the world expected. So changing that is a big risk. So people saying that changing Zelensky is a big risk, like changing the actual like ministers and the president and everything, is also quite a huge risk at the time like that. So yeah, I'd say this, and also physically quite hard to organize. Military people would have a hard time to vote, and there's now 1 million people in the army, and who actively don't, not all of them actively serve, but they're enlisted. So yeah, quite a lot of people live on a different address. Many people lost their houses and are not registered anymore. It's all sorts of like complicated issues. Never mind the fact that 20 something percent of the country is occupied. That's like whole other issue.
Hmm.
27 or something. What's the percentage? Yeah.
I'm not sure off the top of my head. Two questions for you though, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, by the way,
mm,
it's Lonerbox told me this talking point, so it's not mine, it's his. But he explained to me that World War II, for example, in Britain, they didn't have elections for a long, long ass time after the war ended. So like 6 years or some shit. So it was like
they did a
up.
lot of shit in
Yeah.
World War
So
II though, so I mean, like, I don't know
yeah,
if
yeah. So
it's a different
I
time.
mean, I'm not saying like, yeah, it's not exactly 1 to 1, but it's not unheard of to not have elections when you have a gigantic war.
I understand. Like,
Not
and
like local.
I get
Yeah,
the
yeah,
logistical nightmare that that would be and the worries
yeah.
of disenfranchisement that comes from it. However, I
I'd
will
say it's probably something we should think about doing, like organizing that, the possibility of doing
yes.
that for the future, because we simply don't know how much time this war will take, right? So
Yes. Yes,
I'd say
that's
that's
the
something
issue. And
to consider.
also if
Hmm.
your aspirational goal is to be more like America, more like the West,
Hmm.
etc. I think putting ways in to conduct elections, free and fair elections, even during times of catastrophe and stress, is something that should be done. Now, I don't know if that should be a priority for you guys right now when you're throwing bullets back and forth between each other, but
Hmm.
something to keep in mind.
Yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't like mind,
mm,
probably making some future efforts for that. But at the end of the day, also, it's kind of silly to judge, because you did say like right now that in times of like catastrophe, but have you been in such times? For
it
a
is
very long
easy to
time, I
say
suppose
from
not.
my
Y-
safe
y- y-
home in America. I
Yeah, 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 yeah,
understand,
yeah.
but say
Hmm.
it, it is an aspiration. But anyway,
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
have.
I
Oh,
wouldn't say I'm against that idea in
sure.
general principle, of course. Yeah. Hmm.
Um, Multiculturalist James, I see you. We'll get to questions in a minute. I just have a couple more for Miss Anna here. Um, so you said that when I first reached out to you, you were pretty doomer pilled, right? But that you've
Hmm.
since gotten some hopium back into your system, right? You're now much more bright and
Yeah.
shiny and all that.
Funny word.
Can I ask
Yeah.
what's the bright spots right now? What can you point to in the Ukraine war that gives you hope?
Sometimes you just get in the funk a little bit, so sometimes it's like very stupid shit. You like spend a lot of time on Twitter or something. you know
Always a
it's
mistake,
it's
but
very
go on. Yeah.
yeah, it's very silly. Like sometimes you just start experience this like anxiety and like this fear of like your country and the future, and just it just gets like too much. Sometimes there's just too many horrible things, like I don't know, like family burning up alive or something. Just another yet thing like happened in my city just recently, like 3 children, mom and father, all burned alive, and there's like just smoke left out of them. So that's, of course, you see that a lot, and you don't see it just like you see it without like any censorship. You see it like my city is ruined partially. I go outside and I see it every time. So my father's house, right now I am in the process of the fight for getting my father's house, like inherited, I think inherited, something like that. Yeah. So I have a hearing third one in March for the house and for the court and everything. And all of that is I just can, go where the house used to be and just look at the like one wall. There's like this brown splash still there. So I can see that, and that gets me depressed or sometimes. I try to be, as high spirited as humanly possible, but just sometimes just like stupid like regular things as well, like not sleeping, for example. So sometimes you're like okay, and sometimes you just get the bombing starts, right? So shit explodes and everything, and you just jump out of your bed, you fall on the floor, you crawl to the corridor, and sometimes it's fine. It doesn't like I don't know. It doesn't. I don't feel much. Just regular shit. But sometimes you just sit there and you're like, you're just tired of it, and you want to sleep, and you just want to rest, and you just want to feel safe in your own fucking bed. Like a normal person. And sometimes it just gets too much. Sometimes you see those like sad faces of your like I don't know relatives or friends, and get a bit upset and a bit doomer about it. But then you like pick yourself up and you
Sure.
work.
What are some of the coping
It,
mechanisms you use? Like how do you get like because you are every time I talk to you, you're very perky, you're very happy. What are some of the ways you kind of what
okay.
helps? What helps you? Yeah.
What helps? Mostly things that elevate me the most, at least, is AI soldiers. So when I see them like happy or like smiley, or when I receive like some sort of like happy videos of them of receiving things, or I talk with them, they're the least doomer people, which I always aspire to be like them, because you talk to civilians and civilians are like grumpy assholes. When you speak to soldiers like living in the trenches in horrendous conditions, in horrible, like the most hardships you can fucking even comprehend, and those people are smiley, they joke, they are enthusiastic, they are strong spirited, and you just get energized straight up, because just you can't fucking complain. Like I can't complain to them about crawling out of my bed to the corridor like I just did to you, because they don't have a bed. They
Yeah.
also don't have any free time out of bombing. So I get occasional bombing, they get constant. So because of that, that's what elevates me the most, just helping them first and foremost, and just being inspired by the bravery and the absolute magnificence. Love you guys.
So
Thank you for
for
everything.
for my
Yeah.
audience, right, who's watching this and it's like, man, I wish I could help, right? What are some ways they can? Like, is there any way for someone who's living in the safety of their home in the West to help you guys out? What would you suggest to someone who wanted to assist you
I'd
directly?
say the one of the things that is costs you nothing is, of course, talking with your friends, with your relatives, people talk with them about it if they want to. Don't like be annoying about it. But talk with them if they're a little bit interested. At least you can talk with them, and you can post on social media, on Twitter, and everywhere. It might seem like it's not much, but it actually is a lot, because you are counteracting fucking Russian bots you that create this depresso atmosphere, because it does seem sometimes you open like a I don't know, like a post of some Ukrainian, right, and all the comments are like shitting on them relentlessly, like harassing them, like calling them names. And it's just, you sometimes look at it and you think, like, it does feel like the whole world is fucking against you for some reason, but it's not true. It's not real life. It's just like a bunch of fucking
Yeah.
bots,
It's a
on Twitter.
yeah,
So
it's retards online and you gotta just ignore
yeah,
retards online for the
yeah,
most
yeah,
part.
yeah.
Easier
Either
said than
returns
done, I
online,
get it.
or genuine bots, like just paid people. who
Hmm.
barely write in English to pass as Americans. Yeah, make people like genuinely just like real human interaction, even some silly shit. You see like some Ukrainian post of someone like being upset or something, maybe just I don't know, do a little heart there, like blue and yellow flag or something. Just just little things like that. Unironically, do cheer me up, and
Okay.
I think many Ukrainians would say the same. And that's for free. If you can have money to spend, then of course you can help Ukrainian organizations. You can help like Come Back Alive or something like that. Maybe I have a PayPal on my Twitter that sponsors my volunteer work
Can
in
you
particular. You
link
can help
that to me and
other
I can
volunteers.
post that in my chats, right? I got a
Oh,
YouTube chat, I got a
my
Twitch chat, and if we're gonna talk about this, right, we might as well give people the opportunity to put their money where their mouth is,
yeah.
so to speak, right? Like I see a lot of people
You
saying
want my Twitter like link
the link, the
or
what they can, whatever they can click on, that can they if they have something to give that they can give monetarily.
so unfortunately, I Ukrainians are not allowed to have by PayPal links. I have no idea why, but we are only allowed to have like Gmail, PayPal. So I will send you like my Twitter link. You can post it, and in
Yes.
my bio there is my PayPal that you
Okay,
can
we'll do that.
use. Yeah, we only got PayPal just when the war kicked off. So I'm very
Uh,
glad that I can even use it because before that we couldn't use it, and it's a very good international like kind of thing I could get money from as a volunteer. So yeah, thank you PayPal, but link would be nice so that you can actually use a link
Absolutely. It's
for
a
people.
little
Yeah.
messed up. Gang,
Mhm.
um, I understand, right, that not all of you can afford it, but if you can, every little bit helps.
Yeah,
Even if you
definitely
just
a
got like
little bit help.
$10, right?
That is a lot. Even one helps. So even $1 helps. So remember Tucker Carlson, guys, and how cheap Russia was for him. That's how much your dollar is valuable. So sometimes you may think that $2 is like fucking nothing, right? It's not nothing. So yeah, so many people, like 100 people send in $2 is a lot already. So that's like 10 people kept warm with thermal wear, right? So it's not
Absolutely.
it's a lot. It's a lot. And just a couple people helping couple people, even if you can, is a lot because I mean, if you have like a soldier, 20-year-old or something with a frostbite, and you
Yeah.
help him alleviate that frostbite, that's a lot. That's a whole ass person that is happy now without the frostbite. So it's a lot. It's definitely a lot. And I do try to show people like actual footage, right, of the people who receive things, and that's so they can see the lives they impact in particular, like on a personal level, more so, I suppose.
Yeah, gang, and I appreciate the donos to me, I do, but let's give to Anna today, right? Let's throw some of those
Help
dollars
me.
that way. $10.
I like him
Yeah, $10
a lot.
from In Pursuit
Help
of
him out.
Knowledge to ask this. Would you approve
Hmm.
of Ukraine
Thank you.
getting nuclear weapons? France is speaking of doing this.
That's quite a hard question, to be honest with you. I'm not that well educated on our capabilities to maintain nuclear weapons. So I honestly will not make any points because I'm
Fair.
not
If you don't
sure.
know, you
Like
don't know.
yeah, in the future, perhaps because many people are salty as shit still because of the Budapest memorandum that we gave up our like now we have this, and yeah, many people feel like that was might have been a mistake, but many people are also not aware that we had huge problems maintaining nuclear weapons. So it's not just we gave them away just for funsies and for promises of defense. We also gave them away because it was incredibly unlikely we would be able to Soviet Union dissolvement, this whole clusterfuck. Like, so we would be, good enough at actually maintaining them. So yeah, so that would be a risk that after Chernobyl, most people in Ukraine don't want to take for obvious reasons. So I'd say that there was like a bit of a radiation scare, let's put like that, right? I know
A
it's
little bit,
completely different
yeah.
things. So what happened in Chernobyl and what happens if like a nuclear, bomb goes off are completely different things. Those are not the same. But the scare was there. So that's obvious, like because people's faces melted off of their heads.
Yeah,
So because of that,
that's
yeah.
a problem.
Um,
I get you. I
yeah.
get you. I
Mm-hmm.
guess let's see. For my last question, because I don't want to keep you all night. And I want my chat wants to ask you a couple things too. But for my last question, right? Um, what would you say to the Westerner watching you, the American watching you, who still has kind of like doubts about supporting Ukraine, who's still like leery? Is this something that's important to be involved in? Why is it our business? What does this have to do with us? What would you say to that person watching you right now?
First thing I would say is it's completely their right not to want to support Ukraine. Like there's not much I can genuinely even like be mad at. Of course I appreciate or so much people who do support, right? But at the end of the day, that's not for me to decide like what American people want to support or not, who they vote for. It's not for me, it's for you. I do hope you will vote not for Trump, but but at the end of the day it's not for me to decide, right? So that's the first thing. That's up to you where the fuck your money is going at the end of the day. But second of all, why I think you should support Ukraine, not must but should, is because simply put, not only there's like two things. First of all, I think it's quite righteous to support a country that is fighting for its existence and is defending itself. We're fighting on our own land. This is our home. We defend it. We're not anywhere else in the world. They came to us. So it's virtuous thing. But if you don't care about virtuous thing, which is, sensible, those people on other continent, why the fuck should I care? So that's also a thing to say. But you should care, I guess, in the sense that I do believe that America is a hegemony, obviously, right? Like the hegemon of the world. And if that's important for you to keep in a way, then you have Europe as your ally. So European Union, Western Europe is your like main ally for sure. Like, but the entirety of European Union, right? So there is a relationship, very long one, very like historically prosperous between the United States and Northern America, let's say, right, and Europe. And because of that, I suppose it's quite important for you to not let the biggest country in Europe fall to complete and utter madness of Russian occupation. That will affect global trade. That will affect prices of food. Food is a huge thing because Ukraine produces quite a big chunk of food, not even for Europe exactly, like for Africa as well, for Asia. So we will have the most incomprehensible number of refugees in Europe that will just run the fuck away, not to experience *𝕵𝖎, not to experience torment, rape, prosecution, horrible, horrible mass graves, all that thing that Russia did do in cities they occupied and villages. So we already have the biggest refugee crisis since World War II, I think, because 10 million Ukrainians already left. So add 10 more of people who will be terrified and just run the fuck away as far from Russia as humanly possible. And then think about the other 20 or like who will be staying here facing genocide. So it would be a disaster on unimaginable levels for Europe. It is already, to be honest. But yeah. So think about that and how it will impact Germany, how it will impact France and major European countries. If you don't care about like weird ass love, people, which understandable, but at least you should care about your closest ally and the most powerful ally, people who share your values as well, because the Western countries are the countries with democracy, are the countries with freedom of speech, the respect to human rights, respect to property rights, respect to press, freedom of press, and all the values that I kind of think Americans have, and they think are good. So that's something you should care about. Global catastrophe is something you should care about. Having Russia on the borders of Poland and European Union and NATO countries is also a very dicey situation that can lead to World War III, which I suppose most people don't want, which is a reasonable thing not to want. And Russia has will not stop. They will do further if they're allowed. So
I think anyone
Moldova is a
watching,
prime target.
yeah, anyone who watched the Tucker Carlson interview again should know that Putin
Yes,
at least
yes,
has
exactly.
designs
Yeah,
on Poland,
yeah. So
of all things. Yeah,
Putin's
so
Putin designs are grand. He has been talking about it for a while. One of his main visions was restoration of some sort of like a to the Soviet Union 2.0 something. So not exactly like communist, but like an in the sense of Russian Empire, right? So restoring all those republics that were in Soviet Union at the very least. So with Ukraine would be his grand victory. He always thought that way. It's like at the core of like he basically is kind of like obsessed with this pan-Slavic shit. So there's like three main Slavic nations. It's like Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. It's like Belarus is already basically Russia at this point, so all but name. So that's what one of the main like agendas. And if he achieves that, which he won't, but if he achieves that, then yeah, the road is open at the end of the day. So yeah, so it's up to you, people all over the world, to show that this obsession with former days, with days of past glory, empire, conquest, expansionism are gone and should be gone. So those days should end. And people like Putin, unfortunately, are the relics of the past that's still kicking and and
yeah,
trying to achieve their glorious dreams. And people of the world, of the Eastern Europe, as you probably know, are the one who sponsor NATO a lot. For example, like countries who are close to Russia are the biggest sponsors of NATO. So Estonia, Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, Hungary, I think Czechia, Slovakia, I think as well. I think maybe, yeah, basically all the countries that are in close proximity to Russia give the most money to NATO, like of the GDP. You know
yes,
why? Because
percentage
they're
wise,
afraid. They're afraid of Russia. That's why, and they're reasonably afraid because what they're doing to my country, they can do to other countries, and they did. Georgia, Moldova, before Ukraine. So
absolutely.
that's, yeah, that's why you should care, because that's just not a Ukraine problem. It's a Europe problem. It's a big problem. And Europe problem is your problem, unfortunately for you,
Well,
I guess.
it's no,
Yeah.
it's everyone's problem, right? We talk about these things
Mm-hmm.
and we see the horrors unfolding over there and the blatant rank aggression of Putin and he makes no secret of it. He tells us exactly what he wants to do, right? Exactly what he wants, and it's our job to stop it, right? Back during the Cold War, there was the domino theory, right? And this is why we got into the Korean War, the Vietnam War, etc. Because the understanding was that countries falling to communism would have to Russia specifically, USSR,
Mm-hmm.
would have a
Yeah.
domino effect. There's some truth to that. If you look at Ukraine, right? If Ukraine falls, God forbid it does, but if it does, there is going to be a global domino effect. What happens to
Yeah.
Taiwan after that, right? You think
Yeah.
China
China,
isn't
other
like ready
actors
to
here.
go, right? If they see America won't support its allies in Ukraine, won't support its commitment to Ukraine, if people in the world cannot trust America to keep its commitments, right? To keep its promises,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Taiwan is watching this closely, right? Other countries are watching this closely. And if we fail here, that's it, gang. That's it. That's the game. That's the ball game. It opens up a
Yes.
Pandora's box that is going to be so hard to close. The investments that we can give now today to Ukraine to arm them just is going to save us blood, sweat, and tears down the road. So I implore all of you,
Yeah.
right, not only to donate, right, to Ukraine if you can, like to UkrainianAna if you can, but also call up your representatives. If you're living in America, call up your senator, call up your congressman, call up whoever you can, and just encourage them to support funding for Ukraine. That is
Yeah,
something we
go
need to do.
vote.
Yes,
Go vote,
absolutely.
please. Yeah, that's very important, and for free. Don't doesn't
Whoop.
need money. But yeah, another thing you brought up like the just now about the consequences, but there are also like plenty of actors that also have like those glorious imperialist ambitions of the past. It's not just Russia, right? So for example, there are like also Iran is a pretty, a complicated issue. There are plenty of things, not to mention the fact that of course like you guys don't care about Serbia that much, which is reasonable. But there's also like Serbia who has like, giant ambitions of restoring. Like many people in Serbia have like those. They were like when this whole thing started, by the way, when the invasion in February started, like the whole full scale invasion. They were like on forums like, yes, we're gonna take Balkans, like Yugoslavia 2.0. So those attitudes are there, and whether they are be realized, first of all, of course Croatia will kick their ass now again, but but their ambitions are there, not only in politicians but in people of those countries as well, the culture, the ideology, the political climate, everything, right? So it's important to understand that that those type of like actors, right, on the global like that stage, they will do it if they know they can. So this now is a test of sorts. If it works, it works for many other people as well.
It's the
So yeah,
pilot episode, gang, right? And we need to make sure
pretty
this
much.
show is
Yeah.
canceled. Okay? So please, please, please.
Yeah,
Anna,
that's a funny way to put it. Yeah.
thank you for your time. I know you have places to be and places to go, but I just wanted to again say thank you for being willing to come on my show and talk about these things and give us a Ukrainian perspective from someone who's
Thank
there
you. I appreciate
on the
it. Mhm.
ground, and so I appreciate it. Is there anything else you have for me before we let you go? Anything, questions, comments,
Pretty
concerns?
much. I don't know if anyone has like any maybe questions, then I will,
Do you want to take a couple
answer
call-ins,
if
right? My next guest isn't going to be here for another 15 minutes, they said. They just DM'd me, so, um,
call-ins, like
well,
actual calls.
yeah,
That's cool.
do you mind?
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably not gonna be sleeping today much, so
Oh,
we
well, no,
can do
again,
it.
if you have to go,
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
By all
No,
means,
no,
right?
no.
Don't want to
I
keep you
mean,
here.
I haven't insomnia, so like,
Fair
I'm
enough.
fucked
Fair enough.
regardless.
So,
Yeah.
gang, if you want to call in and ask Anna a question or just say hi to us, you very well may.
Yay.
Exclamation point Discord and chat. Click that link, accept the rules, and jump backstage, and I'll pull you in. Please be respectful
Also,
with your questions.
congrats on that canvassing thing. I saw
Oh,
you participate in that.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
really think that's very cool.
I
Thank you
think
very much.
so
Yeah.
as well. There's a lot of people who are
Yeah.
still a little mad at me for doing it. I don't understand why, but it's their right, and they
Mad?
can be. Yeah, they're very upset that I get paid by Progressive Victory, and so that's what it is.
Oh, but I mean,
Look,
you
I don't
like
understand it,
a
but
Democrat?
I am a
Like,
I've always been a
I
Democrat.
yes,
I
that's just
don't
that
get
was.
it, but it is what it is.
I see.
Anyway,
I
yeah,
kind of
if
find canvassing funny
mhm.
because it's such an American thing. Like the canvassing is like very American. That's why I appreciate it. It's like watching a movie or some shit. Yeah. Also, you got cool people there.
Yeah,
Some I
I
know.
got to meet
Yeah.
Lonerbox and Dylan and
Yay!
all sorts of
Best left.
people,
We
right?
we love Loner Buck.
Lonerbox is
Yeah.
very tall. Let's say that. Okay,
He
I was
he's what?
surprised at how tall he was. So,
Yeah, yeah. He's attractive. Okay, but that's whole another story. Like I appreciate him for other reasons. Yeah, but
absolutely.
he is cool. Yeah. Also, the
Absolutely.
best dressed, obviously. Yeah, Europeans are superior, I suppose, in
If you say
fashion.
look, we are here to have peace,
In
not war.
something, give us something. Yeah, yeah, give us something.
Gang, here's a link to my Discord, and if you have questions and concerns, we'll pull you in. Here we got our first caller. Hello, you're live.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi? Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, yep. Let me turn off the stream first. First
Oh.
of all, hey Anna, how you doing? And also, hey Wick, how's
Hello.
it going?
Hey, do you
Hey,
got
hey.
camera for us? It's okay if you don't, but
Oh
faces.
my god. Long story short,
I love the hair and the beard. It's very fashionable.
thank you.
these
You
days.
know, I
Appreciate
actually
it.
was thinking I had someone to look up to for that style too. Long story short. Yeah. Anna, long story short, I actually tried to then see if there's any way to like get like a Lord of the Rings book. What was a TRPG
Wait a
your
minute.
way.
Wait a minute. Wait a second.
What is going on here?
Was it
I know
Oh,
you can't read it because it's in
Tolkun
Russian.
Vas
Can you?
Vastelin Koletsiev.
Yes, good fucking job. You can read it. I'm impressed. Yeah.
Говорите, yes, just a little bit. Yeah, but thanks. I'm a multiculturalist, of course I can. But yeah,
it's my stand for my microphone. Holy shit.
that's
That's impressive.
oh, thank you, thank
small
you.
world.
Spasiba, очень спасибо. But what it
Пожалуйста.
was, yeah. What I wanted to ask you, it was very funny. Yeah. What is your take on the? This is so funny that it just happened this way. So Lex did his own post, right? Lex Friedman, he put up his post that
Oh,
said,
yeah.
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 Tucker, hey, all conversations are good. And God bless Lex. I
Uh,
love him. I think in
uh-huh.
his heart, he's a good person. And I like
I
his
think so
content a
too,
lot.
yeah.
That's the thing.
Mhm.
But his, in my opinion, his take about like saying, oh, all conversations are good conversations is kind of like saying all speech anywhere is good speech anywhere.
Mm.
And it doesn't really follow through either. I was wondering what your take is on his take on that, and then the response. Because here's the funny thing: he then got like kickback from you in part, and then it was a critique, and then he put on his post. He posted on his Twitter, "Oh, thank you for the responses or the critiques. I'll try and do better." And I was like, "Oh, that's nice. That's the Lex I know." And then he blocked you, but then I checked my Twitter, and he blocked me. And
Oh,
I looked.
no.
I
I'm
liked.
sorry.
I liked your
You missed
tweet,
my
and I was
point.
like,
Okay.
"What?"
Okay.
Uh,
I'll have to say this, right? Lex
oh,
often visits my stream and donates money, so I will have to stick up for my boy
we're not
Lex here.
shitting
Sure,
on
sure,
Lex.
sure.
It's so good.
Okay.
But I disagreed with him basically,
Sure.
and I pointed out that how naive and silly that is, especially from someone who is originally from Russia, has family in Russia, speaks the language, so can consume the media and Russian, stuff. And for him to even come, it's impossible to even like comprehend how can you think that Tucker's interview with Putin can be anything but just propaganda piece. So it never gonna be a conversation because Putin will not allow a
To be
conversation.
fair to
Not a
Lex,
single in.
it did work out that the interview was actually super helpful for Ukraine. I mean,
That
just
was luck. That
Luck,
was
putting
yeah,
that
luck, and
out there.
it
Putin.
was luck. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
luck.
yeah. That was luck, and Putin being a bit more unhinged than Tucker anticipated from him. That's not on Lex on like or on Tucker Carlson. So that's just Putin being Putin, Which thank you,
Fair enough.
Putin. Rare moment of
And
thank you.
just
Yeah, but yeah. That's my. I just feel bad because people like you who liked it or like commented on it, he blocked everyone. And there were like a lot of his fans there who was like, I love Lex, he's a good guy, but I disagree with him. I think you're correct, like for critiquing him. And I was like, oh yeah, thank you, right? And they blocked everyone. I mean, he blocked me, that's fine, but he blocked like his own peeps, which I
yeah,
feel
I've
bad
liked his
about.
stuff. I've retweeted his stuff. And
Yeah.
to his credit, I
Mm.
think he seems like a really nice guy. I promote like
Mhm.
in general what he does, but like that was yeah. Even Dylan Burns came back and said this was a bit of a naive take on this part. But
Yeah,
in any
that's
case,
naive.
there's
That's
yeah,
naive. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't
But
know why, but it's I find it to be naive and I find it to be kind of harmful as well because, for example, propaganda pieces it had the potential to be a disaster. So it kind of like a potential to be a very strong anti-Ukrainian, like anti-NATO, I don't know, democracy West sort of fest, right?
Oh
But it
yeah,
didn't work out that way.
you're pushing on my
It
pressure point. Look,
thankfully,
I don't
thankfully.
think Look, I would disagree with Lex on this, that not all speech is good speech. Absolutely not. But where I stand, and I think I've always stood here, is all speech should be allowed, right? So even if it's a
I'm not saying it should be
propaganda
allowed.
speech.
I never said Tucker should not
Okay.
be allowed to go
Fair
there.
enough.
I only said that it's a bad thing for my
Fair
country
enough.
in particular, right? So that's a whole different thing. I never said Tucker should be prohibited to visit
Sure.
Russia or some shit, right?
Sure.
Yeah, but it's just about the just seeing that in the way that Lex seeing that is naive, and it's way too naive for a person who has a podcast, who is just like a sort of a
I am
celebrity,
sorry
and
he
also
blocked
has a
you.
family rush. I
Mm.
don't care. It's his right.
I'll
Like I
ask
called
him
him
to
out.
unblock you guys. I will
I
try
really
to
am not
Then
like
pay
a,
for me
a
too. I
I
like
will.
the thing.
yes,
I will get you both. I'll
guy.
get you both. Is there anything else you
I'm the
had
person.
for Anna here
Yeah.
tonight, Mr. James?
Honest to goodness, you're an inspiration. Look,
Oh,
I'm
thank
not
you.
I'm not in this in the situation that you were. I was in China for almost 7 years, and so I get the at least the element of like you're in a situation where there's things that it's just I don't know. You're abroad, and it's hard for then people who are like in the Western America to really be able to empathize with that. And I think that no, seriously, you put yourself out there, and it's inspiring, Anna, and it takes a lot.
Thank
So
you. I appreciate
thank
that.
you,
Yeah, thank you
and
very
do
much.
that. But yeah, if there's ever any way to get like a D&D version of the Lord of the Rings to you, just put that in chat too, so that'll be there.
That's thank you.
Wonderful.
I really made me really like smile that you show me the Lord of the Rings things, because we in Ukraine are sims for Lord of the Rings. We do love this stuff. So yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. I also have my own book
Yeah.
to show you. Yeah. So yeah.
A
Bye bye.
bonding
Thank you very
moment.
much
But
for
thank you,
Take care.
yeah.
James.
For,
Bye
Udachi. Have a
bye.
yeah.
good one. Take care.
Спасибо. Пока.
What a nice
Oh, that was
gentleman.
exceptionally cute. It made me all smiley.
Good.
That's cute.
Good. It's a good interaction, gang. And I hope they will
Mm-hmm.
all be of similar natures, right? I know we got some angry people in my chat too, but they can calm down.
He has a
So
book.
hmm? What
He
is
has
your
a book.
IP guy and
You're like,
a few
yeah.
others, but
I hope Lex unbans this person
I do
because
too.
I did him in apparently
Well,
because I
I'm gonna
didn't
be
know,
real with
like,
you. I don't think
yeah.
Lex did it manually. I think it was
I don't think so
probably
either.
a
Yeah, I think it's just
program, a
what like,
bot, one of
yeah,
those
yeah,
things.
yeah.
That's my guess.
I agree.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
he's what,
I don't
2
think he
million
like manually
followers?
went out of this way to.
Yeah.
What can say it again?
Yes, 2 million followers? There's no way he's doing
Yeah,
that manually, right?
of course.
Like,
Yeah, he was getting a lot of shit from Ukrainians, I presume, for his take and for people who are like
hmm.
supportive of Ukraine. Probably NAFA people got on his ass. So I think he was just blanket blocking people. To be honest, that's my guess, please.
I'm being corrected. 3.3 million followers on Twitter alone. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
So
lot. It's a
yeah.
lot. So another question from chat, someone who's not calling in, but they can ask questions from chat too. Could you ask
Mhm.
Anna how her sleep is doing? I heard she went like 2 weeks without sleep and meds
Oh,
weren't helping.
thank you. That's very lovely. I actually got to the doctor because it got to a point that I had 12 days without a single minute of sleep. So nearly 2 weeks. And it got to a point that I was like, no, I couldn't function at this point. So I went to the doctors and they tried to figure out what the hell is going on. They like scanned, stuff because like maybe I have like a tumor or some shit, right? So you need to figure it out, I guess. But it ended up being, at least what I have been told, like my current diagnosis is that I have insane levels of cortisol in my blood, which is like stress hormone. I think you guys say cortisol or something like that. So I have like humongous amounts of that. And I also have COVID complications. Apparently, I didn't know. Yeah, so I had COVID. I didn't even know I had it, and got like my nervous system was already very like weakened, and I had like insomnia problems as is. So COVID somehow impacted my cycle of sleep. That, to put it simply in English, my brain just is permanently active. So it doesn't go in the phase of passiveness to sleep. So it's
Yeah,
always
it's
in this like adrenaline act.
incredibly dangerous, honestly.
Yes, it's not good,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to figure it out, and I am in the process of figuring out, I suppose. I trying different like ways to sort it out. It's a bit hard to sort out because I need my brain to go out of this active, permanently active state, which is kind of hard to achieve.
Mm.
So we're trying to right now, which I am happy to say that I slept a day before yesterday. I actually fell asleep like a normal person, and I don't remember the passage of time. So I slept actually like a real person,
Hooray!
like
No,
a
that's a
real
good
people sleep.
thing.
Yeah,
More of that.
yeah, one day, but still great. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe we will have more of that.
Thank you for the membership, gang, to Solemn Argus. Thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Gang, remember, if you like this content, if you like the channel, if you want to support me, you absolutely can do things like that. You can also do it for free by liking and subscribing to the channel. Let's bring on the next caller and see what they have to say. Goldie, you're live.
Hello, hello.
Hey guys, I'm just muting the stream. Give me 1 second here.
Take your time, and if you got a camera, always great. Always great.
You know I do, Wick.
That's why I'm reminding you.
Oh,
There we
sounded
go.
serious.
So
Hello.
thanks for having me on, Wick. I did miss the first part of the conversation, so I do apologize if this was already covered. But obviously and I'm not asking you to give me details on military strategy. I don't assume you to be a military strategist, but it's more of just the general sentiment of kind of what's going on in the Ukraine right now with the withdrawal from 𝕵𝖎𝖎 and like how that's
Mhm.
being kind of, what does it look like? What is the kind of the feeling as a result of that happening?
Well, to be honest with you, it's not like the biggest strategical loss on planet Earth because it's like a little small town,
Of
and
course.
I would rather that than lose like thousands upon thousands of soldiers. For example, many people, I mean, have different feelings about Bakhmut.
Right. Yeah.
Because how many soldiers we lost there. So because of that, also like this Zaluzhny has been, recently, how to say this, not fired, but I don't know the word. But anyhow, point is that he has been replaced. Oh, that's the word, with Sirsky. So because of that, many people kind of like are afraid that Sirsky will start using so-called like meat, meat throwing meat at the
Yeah,
Russians,
like
and
old
him.
Red Army tactics.
Da, yeah,
Yeah.
what I said, da, I'm sorry. What Russians are doing right now. So, and this whole time. So, of course, him withdrawing from Avdiivka is probably even a good sign in that sense
Right.
that he's not going to just keep them there until like there's no soldiers left. Our guys almost have been encircled at this point. So
Mhm.
escaping the encirclement is probably a better choice, and I don't have people I personally know in Avdiivka, but I heard from guys that there have been a very very rough time there. So it's like
Right. Yeah.
8 to 1, like, so probably makes sense to withdraw. But unfortunately, people are a bit upset because many people kind of like contemplate that this is because of the deficit we have in equipment and in supply of
Yeah, and I think,
Western aid.
and I do, like, I can appreciate that it's a small location, but it's one of those things where I think a lot of the people in the West who have really been closely following, like specifically the front line, through whatever channels they can get their hands on, have seen these like amazing. It's almost it feels like every single time the front line shifts, it's because the Ukrainian military is the most amazing underdog force in the whole world. But
Thank you.
it's just like how is this happening, right? But it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice to hear about kind of the sentiment from there, even though obviously everyone needs to take with a grain of salt, right? Like what is being communicated, what isn't being communicated. It just seemed like every other small location had been held so like steadfast um, by
Mm.
the Ukrainians. So it was just interesting to get kind of your take being there on the
Yeah.
dialogue surrounding
Well, I
the
mean,
retreat from
people are not
Avdiivka.
especially upset because of Avdiivka in particular, but
Mhm.
they are somewhat upset of the prospects in the future that it might bring. So,
That makes
which
sense.
problems the deficit in the future might bring to us.
Of
So,
course.
Avdiivka itself is one thing, deficit and problems all over the front is another
The
thing. And there
foreshadowing
is
that this might, yeah, I get you.
yeah,
Okay,
there is
yeah.
also like a bit of a problem on Kupiansk region, which is like quite close to me where I live. Like it's like 1 hour and a half, right?
Wow.
So there is a big drive there. So there are like 300 tanks now, Russian tanks now there, and they might try to do another breakthrough there, which is not good for me because I'm here, obviously, but it's also in general not good. So we are already underarmed compared to them always
Yeah.
because it's just Russia, you know. But yeah, of course we rely on the Western aid, of course, and
Of course.
I do feel some anxiety about it, obviously, but not exactly because of the Avdiivka in particular.
Mhm. All right. Well, Wick,
Yeah,
thanks for bringing me
Of
on.
course.
Sorry to ask kind of a dry question, but it's not too often I get
yeah,
the opportunity to ask something like that.
It's your question,
I
man. And look, if this is what you wanted to know, it's a good question. It's a good question.
Yeah.
Is there
thank
I
anything
you.
else
really,
before
I
I?
obviously really appreciate you giving me whatever you could, Anna, and please, please, please stay safe. Try to get some sleep. Be
Thank
well.
you. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye bye. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Take
Have a
care.
great day, Goldie. Okay.
Damn, everyone is so nice.
Uh, yes.
uh,
So here's the thing,
happy
and I'll
feels.
ask you, and feel free
Mhm.
to answer however you like. No pressure either way. My next guest is here, P.F. Young, and we're going to be talking about Ukraine funding. He's very against it.
Mhm.
If you want to
Oh,
stay for this, you are very welcome to. But I understand you got places to be. It's very late there, so I'm not going to.
yeah, it is
Yeah,
3 in the night already. So I might as well try to catch
absolutely,
some sort of sleep
absolutely,
if possible,
of
which
course.
unlike,
Gang,
but may happen.
can you give it up, right, for Anna here? Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming on. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being willing to sit down with us and ask some questions and answer some questions for
You're
us.
very
Really
welcome, and
appreciate you.
thank you to everyone who participated, and to you, Wick, especially for having me on. And are you going to do like kind of like have like a debate with this person,
Yeah,
or like a chat or something like? Oh, I see. Yeah.
conversation slash debate. So we'll see how it goes. I
Well,
know
good
I
luck.
very disagree with his
I,
takes, but we'll go on. But anyway,
yeah,
I will
good
see you
luck with
later,
that. Yeah.
and you have
I'm
a
I'm I'm with you in spirit, let's
I
say.
will I will take that into the conversation to come. But for now, I'll bid thee adieu.
Yes.
Bye bye,
Bye
Anna.
bye. Yeah, yeah, bye. Thank you.
What a great conversation, gang. So nice. I really enjoy Anna. I think that once again, before I bring my next guest on, I just want to be uh Lumi, hi. Careful, Wick. Putin is going to come for you next. He can try, okay? He's got to get through Anna first, and Anna's scary. No, but in all seriousness, um, we have to. We have to. I'll put stronger words on it than Anna does. I think we are morally obligated to support Ukraine in this time if we can, right? And we can is the answer to that question. If we can, we can. America has the ability. America has the will. American politicians want to support Ukraine. It is very few that are acting as an obstacle in this, and I think that's shameful of them. Mike Johnson has blood on his hands. Straight up. He blocked this bill that if he had put it for an up or down vote would have passed easily. And that was money, billions of dollars that Ukraine could use to arms itself, right? Um, yeah, it's a tragedy. But let's bring on the next guest. Warm welcome, P.F. Young. Hello, you're live.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Hi, can you hear me?
Can you see me?
I can now. I'm digging the stash, brother. Okay, first of
sir.
all, very, very 70s, but very, very nice. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I grew up myself.
First of all, it's been a while since we've talked. How are you doing? What's new in Youngland?
What is new in Youngland? Nothing. Just continued grind towards probably our last 2 years of civilization. I'm thinking. Did you see the AI videos that?
I did. You think that's
Yeah.
going to end?
Yeah, I think it's gonna end everything. Whatever you were gonna ask, it's gonna end it.
Really?
Yeah, because I could very easily see, for example, fake AI images of something like, for example, of dead Palestinian children that gets posted to Twitter and then it gets identified as fake. So then everyone says, "Oh, these are not even real images. What's happening there is not even actually happening."
Oh, you mean like how they're using Syrian images and trying to pass them off as
Yeah.
Palestinian? That's already
Yes.
happening, is the thing. So I'm less doomer on than you
That's
on
fair.
this because
That's a good point.
this is something that's already occurring. Is people? It's not AI generated, but they are using fake and doctored images or misrepresenting real images in a way that is dishonest. And I think that it's yeah, I think that we are more resilient as a species. There will be an adjustment period to this, but I don't see it as a doomer thing, in my opinion. So
Maybe. I think as long as it's not able to impersonate individuals, because once it gets to the point where it's completely indistinguishable, then we will literally not have a shared
what are you
reality.
worried that the AI young will say? Right? What are you worried that they will make
I'm not
AI
worried
young
I'm not
say or
worried.
do?
Trust me, I say far worse things than anything an AI can impersonate of me.
$5 from 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙𝖘𝖍𝖔𝖜. Just dropping by to say I appreciate you big time, Wick. Keep up the grind, bud. Well, I appreciate you too, sir. Thank you for the $5. I really appreciate you. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Ukraine.
Let's get to it. So I messaged you the other day and asked what you thought about the Ukraine funding bill. Tell my audience what you think of the Ukraine funding bill.
I couldn't tell you what I think because I didn't read it.
Well, what about putting American dollars towards helping Ukraine?
Generally, yeah. I am generally pretty against the U.S. continuing to aid Ukraine without conditioning it to peace talks. As I am
what
against.
What do you mean by that?
Let's just go back to first principles. Let's just take this to the very basics. Why should I, as an American citizen, an American taxpayer, support one side in a war that I don't think has much to do with my interests?
Well,
that's the null hypothesis.
I would argue that it does have to do with your interests. I think you're incorrect there. And the second portion that I would challenge you on is that by conditioning it to peace talks with whom? With Russia? Russia doesn't want peace talks, first of all. And so if Russia doesn't want peace talks, why should we make aid to Ukraine contingent on that?
Well, let's step back. Before we get into that, let's start just at the very basics. Sure. Why there are many conflicts going on in the world at any given time. Why should U.S. citizens be subsidizing one side of a war that neither side seems to have a particular... That doesn't have any bearing on my well-being as a citizen of the United States?
So I think it speaks to the trust in America on a global stage. Let me ask you this. Do you think that America's prestige and the trust levels that foreign countries have towards America, does that matter on a global stage? Does that matter to the American citizen? Does that matter to the country?
Well, what do you mean?
So, if America as a country, as a nation, were to lose the trust and faith of its allies, do you think that would negatively impact the American citizen, the average American?
Like which allies?
The European Union, for example.
No.
You don't think it would impact us?
No, they would still be our trade partners.
Interesting. What about Taiwan? Do you think it would negatively impact us?
What do you... What? Just Losing our reputation. I
Yes,
think
losing our
I think draining our resources in a war in Russia prevents us from being able to stop China from taking over Taiwan.
How much resources do you think were being drained from the American war machine?
I don't know, how much have we spent, including the depleted, or what is it? We're sending them outdated arms.
Outdated equipment and ammunition.
So why do we need a
artillery
bill
shells.
to do that? And why are we appropriating funds then? Why wouldn't we just send them the equipment?
Well, the funds are to going to American companies, right? Most of them, not all of them, right? But as I understand it, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but the funds are being allocated to replace those munitions and things like that. That's what the money is going to. But we do lend-lease and things like that, so we are giving the outdated.
So we're taking dollars that could be used here in America,
yeah,
and devoting them to something else.
But they are being used in America. Not all of them, but a good portion.
To fund the production of military equipment?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
to replace
that's
what's
not,
being used.
Yeah, that's not good that doesn't help the U.S. citizen. So I'm against that. I'm against the military-industrial complex broadly. I think we spend way too much on the military. Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm against
and you still say that even with the conflicts rising up all across the world right now?
Yes, absolutely.
We have Israel, Gaza going on right now. We have Ukraine, Russia going on. We have China doing its saber rattling against. We have India and Pakistan that are always at odds, things like that.
Yes,
and you think
I think a lot of those, like for example, Israel, Palestine. I think. Well, I don't want to get off track for now. This is my point. I just want to keep it broad. Again, look, I am a citizen of the United States. Just $1, whether it's $1 billion or $1, just in principle for now. Why is it in my interests to support the Ukrainian war the Ukrainian defensive war against Russia?
Well, are you familiar with let me ask you this. Are you familiar with domino theory and what that is?
Yeah. One bad thing happens and it leads to many other things?
Specifically in the context of geopolitics, right? In the Cold War, during the Cold War, this was a big thing. It's one of the reasons we got involved in Korea and Vietnam, etc. This way of thinking was that at the time, we feared that countries would begin to fall to USSR, right? Fall to communism.
Yes. Nobody hates communism more than I do.
Fair enough, right? But that was the way of thinking. Like, the reasons we would get involved in those foreign countries, which had little to do with us, is because if these countries were to fall, it would start a domino effect, which USSR would gain much more influence and power, and it would lead to basically the destruction of our way of life eventually. Right. That would be the end of the domino chain, right?
Okay.
So I would posit that the same effect applies here today, right? That Ukraine is that first domino. And if we let that first domino fall, and we might not feel the direct effects right away, but it will lead down the line to inevitable catastrophe for the average American citizen. Our oceans, which protected us during World War II and largely during the Cold War, right? We were very, our oceans protected for the vast majority of what our enemies could do to us, Pearl Harbor notwithstanding. In the world we live in, that doesn't apply as much anymore. It's not the protection it once was.
What is the worst case scenario you're envisioning? If let's say Ukraine
falls, and as we listened to in the Tucker Carlson interview, Putin also has aims towards Poland, right? So
whoa,
did you not listen to
opposite.
the Tucker?
I listened to the whole thing, and he said the exact opposite.
Come on.
Wait, okay, hold on. What exactly did he say that you're referring to?
Let me get the quote. Hold on.
Because one of the reasons that I'm against continuing to support Ukraine is because Putin specifically said he's got no ambitions in Poland. That's like that was the most important clip in the whole interview, was Tucker asking him straight up.
Get the exact. I don't have the clip with
Putin
me
said
right now.
Specifically, he has no intention of invading. You want me to pull up?
Please do. First of all, I don't believe him saying that directly. I just don't. Right? They said for a long time they weren't going to invade Ukraine, but Look how that turned out, right? I
Hold on,
straight up don't believe him.
Let's get one issue at a time. Do you want to pull up? Do you want me to pull up the
Yes,
clip?
please do. I think it's important for us to see what he
Let's
says.
do
So
that.
link that to me, and I'll stream it for the stream if we can. Well, actually, let me give you perms real quick.
You want to answer questions from chat while I pull it up?
No, so you can watch the stream. I will, but let me give you perms real quick. Hold on.
Okay, most important part.
I hope this works.
Here we go, 1 hour and 7 minutes.
You should be able to pull the clip up and stream it to the Discord, and then we can both watch it together, and my chat could see it too. Hopefully it works. If not, let me know, and we will work from there.
Interesting. When I type in Tucker Putin full interview, it doesn't show up on YouTube. Oh, here it is. Interview to Tucker Carlson from the Kremlin. But Tucker Carlson's channel doesn't show up. That's very strange, isn't it? Whick.
Is it? I mean, isn't it on X?
Why would they censor?
Look, I am against censorship altogether.
Here we
right?
go,
You know this. If they are censoring it, that's bad. But I don't think that's
strange.
applicable to our discussion, honestly.
Okay. I'll just timestamp you the link. 107.14. Here. Copy video at current URL. I'll let you share because you probably will not fuck it up as much as I will. Oh, I sent that to Pitt. I should just DM it to you.
Well, if you stream it, so we can share if you share your screen in the Discord, my chat can watch it too.
Can you not pull it up on your end? I just DM'd you the timestamp link.
Hold on. Let me see if I can stream it on my end. Hold on.
Oh wait, hold on. I might send you the wrong fucking one.
You sent me the wrong one?
107.
Yeah, this is 140. Sorry for the technical.
This is important context.
We're both boomers here, so. Yeah, I'm seeing, like, I don't know why you had trouble getting his YouTube up. It came up first time for me.
107.16. Skip to that and share it.
107.16. Okay, let me share the screen. Hold on a moment, please. Share your screen. Let's share this. Go live if you want to watch it with me. All right. Yep. And 107 what?
107.16.
Roughly,
yeah, right there.
Okay, can you see it, everyone?
I can see it.
I hope you can.
Going to deliver such and such weapons to Ukraine. Oh, I'm afraid, please don't. What is there to talk about?
Do you think NATO is worried about this becoming a global war or a nuclear conflict?
At least that's what they're talking about. And they're trying to intimidate their own population with an imaginary Russian threat. This is an obvious fact. And thinking people, not Philistines, but thinking people, analysts, those who are engaged in real politics, just smart people, understand perfectly well that this is a fake. They're trying to fuel the Russian threat.
The threat I think you're referring to is a Russian invasion of Poland, Latvia, expansionist behavior. Can you imagine a scenario where you sent Russian troops to Poland?
Only in one case, if Poland attacks Russia. Why? Because we have no interest in Poland, Latvia, or anywhere else. Why would we do that? We simply don't have any interest. It's just threat-mongering.
Well, the argument, I know you know this, is that, well, he invaded Ukraine. He has territorial aims across the continent.
We'll give it
and
one
you're
more
saying
minute.
Yeah,
unequivocally
this is important.
you don't.
It is absolutely out of the question. You just don't have to be any kind of analyst. It goes against common sense to get involved in some kind of a global war.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
I
why did you
understand
say
he's
he
saying
said
that.
in the? Well, hold on. Why did you say that in that interview he said he was going to invade
No, I
Poland
didn't
when he
say
said the
that. I
opposite?
said it became obvious by watching that interview that he has designs beyond Ukraine. And his whole spiel before this,
Like
right? When he's going on, when he was asked the justification, right? The justification for why he invaded Ukraine. He did not mention NATO. He did not mention that. He went on to talk about how Ukrainians weren't even real and things like that.
Correct.
And during the course of that, I got the impression, right, that he also viewed other areas other than Ukraine as part of Greater Russia, and that was the impression.
Including Poland?
Latvia and those kind of areas, yes. That
Okay,
was
but
the
not
impression I
Poland.
got. Now, he says
Okay.
here directly that he wouldn't send troops to Poland except for in one condition, and if Poland attacked Russia, right? But that's
Yeah.
also his justification for invading Ukraine, is that Ukraine was attacking Russian citizens, right? That
In the
was his
Donbass.
part of his, in the Donbass and things
Sure.
like that. So we can imagine a very similar scenario where suddenly, right, they've taken Ukraine, and suddenly, oh, Russian citizens in Poland are being attacked, and we have to go in there because Poland is aggressing against Russian-speaking natives and things like. Yeah, it just doesn't pass the. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I got from that interview. He has a very esoteric, or maybe not esoteric, I'm just ignorant, but he has a very specific historical set of rationalizations about how Ukraine is not a real cultural identity. The word Ukrainian technically means like on the outskirts of Russia or the outskirts of a country. So he has this very idiosyncratic justification of why he's able to move into Ukraine, right? And that's why, and he's been saying that for years, right? That he was going to go into Ukraine.
Well, that he wanted, that he thought Ukraine was part of Russia, yes, but
right, and then he acted
until
on
the 2014 and things like that, he hadn't made very many moves. But then when he had the annexation of Crimea, and then again, this isn't something that started in 2022, right? Like,
exactly.
This is something that started quite a while.
So the people say the reasons your whole domino theory.
Yes.
Is, well, just listen to Putin's words. He's talked about how Ukraine isn't a real place, and that it's actually Russian, and that he has a right to move into it. It's like, okay, I believe that he believes that. Whether or not it's true, I mean, it's a total fucking subjective historical analysis. So, can we trust his words or not?
I would not trust Russia at all.
But he gave all those historical justifications for why he invaded Ukraine. And then
but at the same time, if you remember the run-up to the Ukrainian invasion, right, when they were building up troops at the border and things, they swore up and down that they weren't going to go into Ukraine until they did. This was back in 2022.
I don't remember that.
February. Absolutely. In the run-up, American intelligence was coming out saying, hey, they're building up on the things. We have credible intelligence to show that they're going to come in. But Russia and its allies, and its Western allies, and shills such as Hassan Piker and things, swore up and down that Ukraine wasn't going to invade Russia. Why would they? It didn't make sense. All these same talking points you're
Putin
giving to me now.
I thought Putin has been saying he was going to invade Ukraine for some time.
This is the problem with these things, is they speak out of both sides of their mouth, and this is why you can't trust them. Because while yes, he has said for quite a while that he has made no secret that he views Ukraine as part of like greater Russia, right? Russian nationalism type of deal.
Sure.
He's also claiming that, oh, well, we also follow international law and we also do these things.
Yeah, Putin's a liar and a murderer and a thug.
Yeah.
Like Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Why should I support a war against him?
Because this is the
original question.
Sure.
I don't believe he's going to invade Poland. First off, say that's
true. Say that's true.
So hold on. So your domino theory is that if Ukraine falls, Poland's next.
That is one possible domino that would fall off.
There are
others. There are others. For example, right?
Well, hold on. Let's talk about that one. Let's talk about the Poland one. Let's finish up on the Poland one. As a Polak myself, son of Polish immigrants, third generation. I would prefer Poland not fall.
Absolutely.
Why do you think he's going to invade Poland?
I think that if we abandon our commitment to Ukraine, and
Yeah.
because we have made promises that we would support them in this, right? If we abandon our commitment and we take away funding, and then Ukraine falls, I think that shows weakness on the world stage, and Putin will, and other Russian nationals will see, hey, they're not serious about their commitments, and we can just wait them out. So it opens up avenues to go into places like Croatia, to go into places like Latvia, to go into places
But not
like
Poland.
Poland. Yes, Poland, because
So,
they
okay,
will
so-
they honestly will see that America is not willing to support its allies.
Ukraine is not an ally of the United States. It's not in NATO. We have no military treaty obligation. The Budapest Memorandum is not a binding military treaty.
It is not a binding military treaty,
Okay,
but we
so
have
we have no military treaty with them.
Biden made a promise to Ukraine that it
Okay.
would support it.
That was a bad promise, just like the promise we made to Israel to unequivocally stand by it no matter what it does. My fundamental thesis is that the United States is a terrible global leader, and that we should be seeking to make peace with Russia and
What does that even look like? Peace with Russia. What does that look
not
like?
fighting a proxy war with them as we are now in Ukraine.
So you would just let them do whatever they would like.
What I would do is I would say to the Ukrainians, we will give you aid for the next period of, and we would say this behind closed doors so Putin doesn't hear it. But we'll say, look, we'll continue to give you aid for some period of time. You have to sue for peace. Why can't the Ukrainians give up the Donbass region? Which didn't they have a referendum to at least become independent, if not secede into Russia?
Sure, with Russian troops at the voting booth, right? Like this wasn't exactly a free and fair referendum. There's a lot
neither
of
was the coup
about
that overthrew Yanukovych in 2014. You know, Ukraine is prior to 2014 was regarded as one of the most corrupt countries certainly in the developed world.
Sure, there was a lot of corruption problems.
So, as an American citizen, at minimum, I trust the Ukrainian denial of that referendum as much as I trust the Russians saying that they want that referendum.
Really, you consider these two things similar, right?
Yeah, one of the most corrupt countries in the developed world. Why would I trust their word? I don't trust Israel's word.
Okay, I want us to separate Israel from Ukraine.
Sure.
They're not the same situations. They are
Yeah,
not
but it's
the
hard to
same-
talk about one without the other. There's a lot of parallels.
Is there? I think you're drawing a lot of parallels, but I think they're massively different situations. In one situation, Russia was clearly the aggressing factor, came in, annexed Crimea, and then they spent the next 6 to 8 years building up to invade Ukraine, right?
Let's go again. Let's first principles. Why should I care if Russia annexes Crimea or the Donbass? Because you're saying if that falls, then they will have those territories. Now what happens? Now they're in a better military position to move into the rest of Ukraine?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
Okay, and let's say that happens hypothetically. I don't believe it would happen because they've.
Why wouldn't it? Why would they stop?
Who's winning the war right now?
Russia.
Okay. By
not a lot. It's a stalemate.
Yeah. How devastated is their military right now?
It's taking a lot of losses, but
do you think that Russia?
Do you remember Finland? The Winter War in Finland?
I was not around.
Tons of losses.
I was not around in that.
They took tons of losses then.
Well,
but guess what, gang? They still took territory. They
so
still,
Russia?
Technically, it was a Pyrrhic victory, sorry, but they still won.
So Russia is, I would say, barely winning the war in Ukraine.
Sure.
How long has this war been going on? 2 years?
The invasion since February
of 22, right?
22 and 22. Sorry, yes.
Yeah. So almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they've made how much progress?
A lot less than they would like.
So you think that they are in a position to then invade Poland and risk direct confrontation with the entirety of NATO?
They'd wait a few years, absolutely. But if they can show that we won't support our allies, and we will withdraw funding, and especially if Trump gets elected.
From
Trump
Ukraine.
has made plenty of comments about how he would let Russia do whatever he wants, right?
Okay.
I think that it does signal to not only Russia but to China as well, that
Sure.
they could just do whatever they like
Again.
and engage in imperialism, and we will do nothing to stop it. It strengthens again. Like look at the economic side of things, right? When Ukraine gets access to the wheat in that region, to the Black Sea ports and things like that, even their Europeans' energy dependence on Russia right now will just increase.
Because of the incompetence of European Union leadership.
Will just increase. Yeah.
Again, I don't think Russia is an enemy of the United States. Why are they? Why would they be? Any more so than Israel or Myanmar or China?
Because as of now, thankfully, the U.S. stands in opposition to their imperial aims, right? We have a kind of like a compact after World War II that you should not be invading other countries to take territorial through like direct invasion to take territorial gains.
Like China did with Nepal.
Yes, that was wrong and bad, and we should have.
We should have gone to war with China.
We should have done more to stop that. Absolutely, if we could, if we had the ability.
Open war with China. I disagree entirely. This is my point. As a American citizen, I do not see in any way how it's in my interest to support the sovereignty of a nation that is literally on the other side of the world.
You understand
against a country we are not at war with.
For your food, for your electronics, for things are affected by global events. You understand that, correct?
Actually, yeah, but I don't actually think the United States. I think it's a net exporter of a lot of the things that are blockaded or isn't Ukraine a major wheat exporter?
Yes.
Yeah, the United States is not affected by that. It's mostly African nations and other nations.
I understand that, right? But it does affect prices, which does impact us. Because the prices
I don't think so.
Why wouldn't it? Why would
because we
grain becoming more scarce not affect prices, right? Why would even if for example, right, America is grain independent, it's a bread basket, as I agree that it is, right? Even then, if things become more scarce in other areas of the world, given that we also export grain, things like that, it does affect supply, demand.
Well, if we're an exporter of grain, that would actually benefit us because we could charge higher prices. I think this is an esoteric conversation. Again, I'm trying to stick to the broadest possible, the bare basics here. Ukraine is a country that the United States is not an ally of. We are not at war with Russia. We've never declared war on Russia. I do not regard Russia as any more of an enemy of the United States than I do Benjamin Netanyahu. Why on earth should my tax dollars be going to support continued Ukrainian resistance against Russia with no, when they've declared they're not going to negotiate peace? It's going to be total victory. Why can't they? What is wrong with them negotiating with Putin to cede the Donbass and Crimea?
Well, you remember when Russia made that peace deal with 𝕵𝖎𝖎? How'd that work out for him?
Okay, the Ukrainians and the United States have broken many promises, I'm sure.
I understand. But Russia, we have some clear and direct examples of them just, again, not being trustworthy allies.
Yes, and the Ukraine.
So when you ask, right, and I had
country,
Anna on, if I may.
One of the most corrupt countries in the developed world.
Previously, yes, but they have aspirational goals to be less corrupt, and they are making inroads towards that.
Are they? You have evidence of that?
Do I have evidence that they are trying to become less corrupt? Well, I had direct testimony from a Ukrainian citizen on just 2 hours ago who said that they have. Well, you asked, do you have evidence? Here's some evidence. Oh, that evidence? Not anything but that evidence, right? Do you not think direct testimony is useful evidence in getting to the truth of things?
No, I don't think my assessment of the level of corruption in America is more accurate than the whatever it is, the corruption's perceptions index.
What's the current corruption index today of Ukraine?
ChatGPT. Let's pull it up. Jamie.
Okay, so Corruption Perceptions Index from transparency.org, 180 countries, 180 scores. Let's bring this up. Give it a second because I'm slow. Allow all. I don't care. Let's look and search for Ukraine. Is it 36?
Here we go. I have it.
Or its score has gone up 36 points. It's ranked 104, so it is improving. We have more direct evidence.
So the 2018 Corruptions Perceptions Index, yeah, 120 out of 180.
And now it is at 104 out of 180. So it's jumped.
Yeah, so one of the most corrupt
+3
in the developed world.
2022. Yeah, it has a long way to go, but we
Do you
have
the
direct
rankings?
evidence. You asked for direct evidence that it is getting better. Here is some direct evidence that getting better.
No.
Since 2012, it has gained. Let's see, his score was 26 then. It's now 36. It has jumped 10 points, which is quite a bit. Quite a large
And
increase.
it is still one of the most corrupt countries in the developed world. Again, Whick, why should I care whether or not the Donbass is part of Ukraine or part of Russia?
And to be clear, gang, just in case you want to know, Russia is 141 out of 180, so it is almost 40 points behind Ukraine.
Russia is bad.
So substantively more corrupt. Not just bad, right? But substantively more corrupt than Ukraine. At least
Russia
by the
is
metric
not an
that
ally of the
we're
United
looking
States, that's for sure.
But your question to why should you care?
Yeah,
right?
why do I care? Why? See, because you say, well, if the Donbass falls, then Putin will inevitably invade other countries. Why? Why could it not be plausible that that he takes over the Donbass, which he has all this historical justification for, according to him, and he stops there?
Because
and why not? And if he doesn't stop
just
there,
the Donbass, he wants the full Ukraine.
How do you know?
I mean, he said he wants the full Ukraine. At least we can agree on that. He wants all of Ukraine, every single bit.
But you said we can't trust his words. So which is it?
We can trust his actions.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, he's
by
barely
his
winning
actions,
a war in Ukraine.
Through his events, through annexing Crimea, sending in little green men through the Donbass region, the the other, I can't pronounce these words, right? Sorry, excuse me. And through his initial invasion of Kiev, when they sent in those paratroopers and they were driven out in the first 3 days of the war, they tried to kind of just do this encirclement thing, cut them off. And again, he has shown by his actions that he is willing and wants to take all of Ukraine.
Okay, let's say that happens. Now what?
Now what? Now he has access to the resources of Ukraine. It's a very resource-rich country. He has shown that
you think that will allow him?
He can beat the West in a proxy war, which emboldens him to do more of this type of action. The risk increases exponentially.
Yeah, this is one story, right? This is your story. My story is Putin spends all of his military might trying to, which has been utterly devastated. He's winning against Ukraine in the proxies. Now he's taken over all of Ukraine. Okay, it's going to be hell to manage that. It's going to be an incredible amount of resources and military effort, resources to keep them suppressed. And then you're saying then he'll be in a position to invade Poland and then risk direct confrontation with the entirety of NATO, not just proxies, where they have the entire weight of the U.S. military against Russian forces. You think Putin will then do that?
If we do not support Ukraine in this, if we pull out, right? Because a lot of this depends on how they win, right? If even with us arming Ukraine, say we pass the bill, right? Say we continue to arm Ukraine throughout this whole war, and then Ukraine pulls it off Russia pulls it off anyway, and is able to take Ukraine. I think that's a very different situation than if we pull funding, we abandon them, and then Russia wins that way. I think they're just much like a choose your own adventure book. These two paths both end up Russia winning, but they look very different. Now, that's not to say that I don't think Ukraine can still win. I absolutely do. If we give them the funding they need, if we give them the ammo and the material they need, I do believe that they can pull this off. I do believe that they can win. I do believe that they can keep Russia out of their land. Like,
would you be
satisfied with? I don't know.
Yeah,
but
So
right?
would you hasn't the official stated goal of Ukraine is to get Crimea back?
It is. That's their aspiration. It's to take all their
Right.
land
So the
back.
United States should tell them we're not going to give you aid if you continue to say that. Do we agree on that?
No, I don't agree at all on that.
Okay.
I think that
Well, my position is
should
it makes
able to say
no
whatever they want.
material difference to me whether or not the Donbass and Crimea are under Russian, Ukrainian, or independent occupation.
I think
And
again,
I see no reason why I should care more about that than I should the conflict in Myanmar.
you should care about that conflict too, to be clear, right?
Well, why don't
I
we
think
fund?
it-
Why doesn't the United States fund one side in every single war that's going on right now?
Well, not all wars are as clear-cut as Ukraine and Russia. There are a lot of conflicts, unfortunately, where both sides are pretty bad. There is a good argument about Israel and Gaza is to just pull out of the region entirely, because both sides are pretty bad in that.
I agree with that.
yeah.
By the way.
However, Ukraine and Russia is not that. China and Taiwan
I think
is
so.
not that, right?
That seems roughly. Ukraine is not an ally of the United States. We have no military obligation to defend them.
No, but I think it is in our best interest to do so. I think
Yeah,
that
I have
your
yet to
way
hear
of
why.
thinking, while you don't see a benefit short term, you don't see a cost, to be more clear, short term, to letting Russia take Ukraine, right? You don't see a cost. You can't perceive
Correct.
it yet. My argument to you is that, perceive it or not, that the risks, right? The risks to global stability go up astronomically if Russia wins. It showcases that
also
Russia
go up if
can
we
beat the West in a
continue-
proxy war. It showcases
Okay.
that the strongman tactics can be successful on a large scale, and it showcases that America is not to be trusted as an ally.
Yeah,
That
I
means a lot to
understand the
people.
argument. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that it's irrational. I just don't believe it. I believe that we're also increasing the risk of nuclear war by continuing a proxy war with Russia and backing them into a corner. How is that not a part of the equation?
Simply because if Russia were to use nukes, they would have done so by now, right?
How do you know?
I don't think that by arming Ukraine, and we've armed Ukraine before. In 2022, we spent billions, right, arming Ukraine. They talked a big game about nuking us then or using nukes then, but they haven't done so. Again, we can't just look at what they say. We got to look at what they do. We got to look at it's
Agreed.
words versus deeds, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that unless American boots were to go into Russia proper, right, to Moscow
Right.
or something,
Which would be the dumbest thing I could ever imagine.
Yes, it would be dumb, and I would be against that, right?
Yeah.
Simply for the fact that in that case, the risks for nuclear war go up astronomically. However, things like passing a funding bill to give Ukraine some of our old munitions, I don't think that increases the risk of a nuclear war.
I think it does. I think it backs them into a
Well,
corner
I
as
just
well.
think
We're
you're
risking
wrong.
we're in a proxy war. Well, that's fair.
Yeah, because again,
One assertion
China
versus the other.
and other countries, right, are again giving aid and funding Russia, right? A lot of their weaponry comes from these other countries, right?
Okay.
They are also being funded by other countries.
Is that true? How much is China funding Russia's war
I
effort?
don't know exactly. Let me get a number for you. Hold on.
And what's the total that we've spent in Ukraine? It's like 120 billion or something like that.
The Chinese exports of, hold on, let me get this up. Here's an article I can send you. The title
Just
of
tell me
which,
what the number is.
I'm looking for I'm looking for the number in the article, but it says China secretly sends enough gear to Russia to equip an army. Let me look at the number. Russia has imported more than 100 million worth of drones from China. So $100 million worth of drones from China. Body armor, 225 million. Let's see. And
This
at
is
the same
all
time,
above and beyond what it normally puts them in, or is this
yes,
specifically for
the
Ukraine?
increases are 69% in terms of body armor, and I'm looking for the increase in terms of drones, but it's 30 times more than Ukraine gets, right, in terms of drones and things from China.
So,
Right?
so is Ukraine buying Chinese drones as well?
Yes, but that's been decreased, right? They've decreased their supply.
What is the
to
point you're
Ukraine.
making with this?
What I'm pointing at is that there are other countries, China and others, who are backing Russia's play, who are helping to extend the war by funding them. And I think that
how much total did you just, is that less than $1 billion?
Yes.
Because we've given 75 billion.
At least in this article.
Since
sure.
This was as of December. How much is the bill that is in discussion right now?
67 billion, I believe, is the number. 68.
Okay, so 70 billion plus 68 would put us at about 140. I do not believe that the 140 billion American tax dollars should have been gone into this war. I see no payout. All we've done is we've increased the risk of nuclear conflict. We've eliminated or made it extremely difficult to ever have any further negotiations or normalization of relationship with Russia. We've drained ourselves in our ability to then protect ourselves, or I guess Israel in that regard, because we're funding Israel as well. So our military it's costing us a great deal. And the argument that, well, if we allow Putin to just take over, I'd say, okay, yeah, there's a risk to that. There's also a risk that we deplete ourselves and then we're spread too thin. Can we fight a war in Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan? I think not.
I don't think anyone on any side is suggesting we send troops to Israel or anything
we
like
continue
that.
to provide aid to them, and if Iran attacks Israel, we are absolutely
our
drawn
aid to
into
Israel
that.
is a fraction of what we give to Ukraine, or try to give to Ukraine.
I believe that's because we give too much to Ukraine. But if Iran attacks Israel, the U.S., we have military installations. In Iraq that have been attacked.
Directly, are you talking about Iran invading Israel? Then I think there is a
so we could there's a very high risk that we get drawn into a war in the Middle East. We're already in war in Ukraine, and if we're spread across both those fronts, it seems obvious that China would then take that opportunity. That increases the risk of China being taken over, or excuse me, Taiwan being taken over by China.
Yeah.
Yes, again, I just how about this, Whick? Ukraine cedes the Donbass and Crimea. We negotiate a peace if Putin is willing, which according to him and according to, I don't know who it was, but I believe it's been verified that there was a peace deal signed and ready in Istanbul, and then Boris Johnson came and told them not to do it. And there's multiple different sources from non-Russians confirming that. That's my understanding.
I don't know the details of that deal.
Well, this is fair. If this was a debate, I would come with my sources prepared.
Sure. We're having a conversation.
I know. Exactly. But why not? Let's say you can make the peace and you give them Crimea and Donbass, and then if you break that peace, then we will risk open military conflict with you.
I don't believe you, though. Let's say we do that. Let's say all parties agree. Ukraine cedes the Donbass and the other regions that Russia holds now, and Russia agrees not to invade again. But then 5-10 years down the road, Russia repletes its stocks, it gets back into a better position, it takes the lessons it learned in the first time, and it invades again. I think that
the Ukrainians also replenish their armies and take the lessons they've learned.
Much, much smaller industrial base. Much harder to do, but
with
fair
the
enough.
Backing of...
Well, no, because again, I don't believe you would be. I believe you and those like you would be blocking funding to Ukraine the whole time, right? The same argument the argument you would be making would, they're at peace now. We don't have to. We should concentrate on other areas. I think that's the argument you would make, and I think I suspect that when Russia inevitably breaks that agreement and goes back into Ukraine, the arguments would become like, oh, well, you know what? No, we need to sue for peace again. I just don't believe you, to be frank, that you would actually support military, direct U.S. military intervention in that case.
No, I would not.
Absolutely.
There's virtually no
so
scenario.
when you say things like that, when you say things like, why don't we make this deal and if they break this deal, we'll go in with U.S. military intervention. And then you say in your next breath, well, no, I wouldn't support
no, hold on,
US
not U.S.
military
military
intervention.
intervention. But I think if the U.S. brokered a peace deal, which I don't think it's the U.S.'s responsibility to do that, but let's say we did. I mean, I could say, like, look, yeah, Russia, if you attack again, then, you know, we will continue to fund Ukraine or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see that as happening.
It's just very difficult for me to understand how you think that an American citizen would be at risk if, again,
it threatens global stability, and global stability
the United
matters
States, terrible
to the
decisions
United
and all we've been doing is threatening global stability.
What are you talking about? Pax Americana has been the best thing for global stability for the last 70 years.
There's an open war there's a ongoing war in Europe. We're at the risk of a regional conflict in
This is
the
a
Middle East.
result of the decline of Pax Americana. This is
No,
a result
I
of
think
the
this is in
lessening of
part
our
largely
influence
because
of Iraq and Iran. Or not Iraq and Iran, Iraq and Afghanistan.
If the United States had not destabilized Libya and Iraq, I do not think the situation in the Middle East would be as bad as it is. Hindsight's, you know, I mean, we could make up whatever story they got. But again, look, I'm not trying to convince you per se that you should not support Ukraine. I'm just saying if you are asking me to vote for whether to support or not support my tax dollars going to Ukraine, I don't see I don't see what the reason is I should support Ukraine any more so than I should support one side in the Myanmar conflict.
Just real quick,
Putin,
$10.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I super chats, right? $10 from 𝕍𝖎 to say this: Russia beats Ukraine. Russia takes control of gas in Europe. Europe slowly starts siding with Russia for gas. Russia and Europe set sights on America in 50 to 70 years.
That's one hypothetical.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy that particularly, but
sure.
Fair.
I don't like wars of conquest have happened, and okay, like the Mexican-American War was a war of conquest. We drew the border at the Rio Grande. That was 200 years ago. Like I don't believe Putin would invade Poland because he knows he would risk. He knows he'd lose.
I think that his calculation changes.
They're barely winning the war in Ukraine. They're barely winning the war in Ukraine. It's been 2 years. They're utterly drained. You think they have the ability to then wage full-scale war against the entirety of NATO? I think that's absurd.
Ukraine, right, is being funded by not only America, but also the European Union.
Through proxies.
Proxies, right? This is the reason, one of the reasons, that Ukraine has been able to drain Russia.
True.
How it's done. Why would we stop? We want Russia drained. We want Russia to be impotent because they have demonstrated that they will pull shit like this. Not
Israel
only
has
in
demonstrated that they will
2014
pull shit like
when
that.
they annexed Crimea, but also after, because if you remember, that was our red line. Okay, Crimea annexed. Never again, gang. Never again. We're not going to deal with this again. If you try again, we're going to...
I don't know that. I know, obviously, as you can tell, and I think you would agree with yourself as well, we both have very, very, very limited knowledge of all the intricacies of what has been said historically in all these different events. Right? So we have to make decisions on very, very limited information. And again, the reason, like I said, I'm not here to debate, because I don't think I am in any position to tell other people what they should or should not do. I'm telling you what I think and why I think that, and hoping that
I think I'm in the position to tell. I believe in my causes enough to advocate for them that other people should also do what I would like them to do. And I do advocate that more people, and I would like it if you, Mr. Young, also committed to support. I understand it's unreasonable, right? But I still would like it. If you were to come out of this conversation and to demonstrate better, like a commitment to protecting Ukraine, I would be ecstatic. I don't expect that to happen, but I would be glad of it. And regardless of whether I think it's likely, I am going to try to do so because I think it's important, right?
Sure. So, well, I'm more interested in hearing, because I haven't really debated. I've only talked about this with a few other people, but there are many intelligent people who, in my opinion, who do not support what's going on in Ukraine. John Mearsheimer is someone I think worth listening to. Tucker Carlson included. I think Tucker Carlson is... The worst part about Tucker Carlson is that he's very, very right on several issues.
Really? Did
Yeah,
you
I'd
see
say
his
so.
did you see his pieces in like for example the Russian grocery store that he did?
Yeah, that was goofy as fuck.
Yeah. A little weird. Was he right there?
No, not at all. That's why I
Okay.
said... Well, I said the worst part is he's very, very right on several issues. And he's a proto-fascist, for sure. I've seen him say things that are proto-fascistic. But you make compromises with everyone. There's no one who's perfect, right?
Yes.
Who's the most trusted? Who's your
but-
most trusted journalist?
Who's my most trusted
Yeah, yeah.
journalist? Oh, that's a good
Who's the
question.
intellectual figure? Who's the influencer? Political influencer, and I don't mean
I'm
like influencer
pretty
on social media, but
skeptical
who
of
is?
most political influencers. To be
That's a
clear.
wrong term.
I like doing things on aggregate. So what I mean by that is instead of getting my news from one single source or one single mouthpiece, I like to go to an aggregate site, such as Real Politics is one of them. There's other these aggregate sites, and what they do is they pull from multiple sources with multiple
Ground
different...
news.
Huh?
Ground news.
Let me look at what
I
what's
see the
up
advertisements.
currently.
It's fine.
Sure, I don't know
I get your
exactly,
point.
but a multiple different news outlets, what they will do is they will aggregate that data. They will provide links to various articles, which you can peruse at your leisure.
Yeah.
And in that
That's
way,
fair.
I get a more robust look
Sure.
at what is
But
being
do you
talked
understand why I have the position that I have?
about.
I feel like the burden of
understand,
proof
but
is
I
on
think
others.
that you're wrong.
Yeah, fair. And I feel the same way about you.
Sure, but I think I have historical precedent and data of recent years to back that up. I think I have
Sure.
the stance on the ground to back that up, and I think I have evidence to do that.
Yeah. Well, my point is, the null hypothesis is that there's many armed conflicts going on. You need to provide a significant amount of evidence and reasoning to say, here's why we should pick this conflict as opposed to others. What are the reasons for supporting Ukraine that don't also apply to other countries? The number one you said is that because if we do not support the Ukrainians here, it will embolden Putin to allow him to invade Europe.
Putin and other world leaders such as Xi Jinping and things like that. Yes,
Sure.
other dictators
Yeah,
will do
that's
similar
logical.
things
That's
in
logical.
other areas, and we don't want
Yes.
that because it
That's
threatens
logical.
global stability, and global stability is good for America. It's good for
Yeah.
Americans.
That's logical. It is also logical to believe that continued proxy wars with Russia increases the risk of them using nuclear weapons, which is another threat to balance. So that's logical as well. It's all cost benefit, and my point is, I get your point. I just don't find it that convincing because, like I said, Putin is barely winning the war in Ukraine against proxies. How could he? The overwhelming evidence is that if he even attempted to risk open war with NATO, he'd be wiped off the map, and he said so himself.
First of all, I think that even if he does invade a NATO country, I worry whether or not we will accept an Article 5. So say he went into a non-NATO country that's bordering. I forget their names. There's a couple, right, that aren't members of NATO, but they're near Poland, near that region, and they're not Ukraine. Say he goes into that, and Poland is pulled in there, right? Because Poland will absolutely get pulled in to those conflicts because, again, they see this direct threat to them on the border, right? They have every interest to do so. Do we accept a call to aid from Poland in that case? I don't know if we do as America. I wish
I don't know if
would,
we do either.
But I don't know if we do.
Yeah, I don't know if we do either. I don't really understand why NATO exists in the first place if all it seems to do is provoke Putin and provoke Russia. If we had disbanded NATO after the Soviet Union collapsed and worked to integrate them and westernize them, that would have been the proper move. There's plenty of...
Russia, you mean? Are you talking about integrating Russia?
Yeah, integrating Russia. Now, hindsight's 2020. But it does seem like it would be that long term, it's more in our interest to
Well, we
have
did try to
better
play nice
relationships.
for Putin for a while, right?
I don't think so. No,
You don't?
my understanding is we rejected every attempt to invite them into NATO or normalize relationships with them. First off, we waged proxy wars up until they collapsed, right, with the Mujahideen and all that.
The
And then
USSR,
after that,
yeah, I'm glad the USSR's gone, to be clear, right? Good.
well, you could argue whether or not Vietnam was a good move and these proxy wars were good or not, but I don't know. They let the Taliban are a U.S. creation as a function of fighting. So, like I said, generally I don't think U.S. constant involvement over the world it definitely doesn't seem to lead to more stable outcomes.
Well, do you think the world is more stable now, or was it more stable 20 years ago? In your opinion?
I don't even know. I wouldn't even know how to begin to answer that.
It's less stable now.
The risk of nuclear war is higher now than it's ever been, or not ever been. Probably the Cuban Missile Crisis, but the risk of nuclear war is certainly higher now than it was 20 years ago.
I
Russia?
don't think that's true. I think that the biggest tipping point was when India and Pakistan were both facing off with nukes.
That's true too. Yeah,
right? I think
that probably will be what wipes out all of us. We won't even know it.
Yeah, that was
because no one's paying attention.
And that had nothing to do with the U.S. To be clear, right? India and Pakistan have been at each other's throats for a long, long time.
Yeah,
but
just like Ukraine
stability
and Russia
today is worse than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, it seems like it.
American influence, for a wide variety of reasons, including Iraq and Afghanistan, has waned. It's going down, right? The American citizens' willingness,
it's called,
right, to be involved in global affairs is going down, and I think that we are seeing the results of that, and we're going to continue to see accelerating results of that. But the thing is, and I'm going to tell you, you're not going to like it. Right? You're not going to like the world after American dominance ends. It's going to be bad.
Maybe.
Right?
Well,
that is my hypothesis,
we won't be...
right? I think we're going to see that really quick.
Look. The nice thing about you and I, Whick, is that you and I, it's like, you play League at all?
A little bit. I did see I did see some of your videos on this, but go ahead, please.
You and I are playing. Imagine everyone watching right now is spectating a bronze 5 game, or sorry, iron. They added iron since I stopped playing. So literally the worst of the worst. These are literally like borderline mentally disabled people playing this video game, right? It's just we're not in any possession of the facts. Barely, limited.
You keep saying that, but that's not true. I believe
you said
at
the very beginning of this that you said at the very beginning of this that Putin.
Yes, desires to get, if he can get Poland and other places like Poland, he would.
Yeah, he never once mentioned that in the interview at all. It was the opposite.
Do you know what inference is?
Hold on, let me finish my point. What I'm saying is, you and I are the on two sides of this very, very complex issue. There are very, very brilliant, intelligent people who debate this, who are far more keenly aware of these events, and so we're even though we're on the opposite side, we're operating at an iron 4 level, and then at the very top, there's people operating at a diamond and platinum level. There's certainly people like John Mearsheimer, for example, who believe that it is in the United States' interest to normalize normalize relations with Russia, and I tend to think, that tends to make more sense. So a large part of my rationale is because people smarter than me that I regard as competent believe this, and I haven't heard compelling arguments as to the opposite.
What would be a compelling argument to you? What would convince you?
If there was evidence that Vladimir Putin, if we had reason to believe that Putin was a direct threat to the United States, that would be the compelling argument. Or if we had reason to believe that Russia controlling the Donbass and Crimea, if that threatened the average U.S. citizen in any significant way, and I just don't see it.
Well, then I think I've failed you. I think I've failed you, but I hope, right?
You have failed me.
Someone is able to show you the real threat, and I can't.
Yeah, look,
it is a real threat to American interests globally if Ukraine falls?
Yeah, look, I am deeply aware of the cost, let's say, of coming onto this stream. And especially after you talking to Ukrainian, she's in Ukraine. It's, it's not like, I'm well aware it's a personal issue. And I'm well aware that from the Ukrainian perspective, it absolutely makes every rational, logical sense to advocate that the U.S. supports them. I'm aware of the cost of coming on here and not having the timestamps, for example, or whatnot. But I do believe that, like, I'm interested to have the open faith, good faith conversation and tell you why I believe what I believe.
Sure.
I'd have to do more research on what Putin has said precisely about Kiev and Poland. Again, I see no evidence whatsoever that he is interested in taking any Polish land, because all of his historical rationalizations for why Ukraine does not exist, or they're not a real culture, they don't apply to Poland. Poland clearly is a culture that is lineage.
His first principle, as you would say, is he wants a strong, and you can tell me if you disagree with this, but would you agree that Russia wants, or Putin, I should say, wants as strong a Russia as he could possibly get?
Oh, every leader believes that.
But in Putin's case specifically, where he wants Russia to be as strong as it could possibly be. Is that true?
Yes. Yes. Not in his case particularly, but you just said in his case specifically.
Because we're talking about Putin specifically. I'm walking you down a logic chain here.
It's like saying Putin, yes. Putin is the leader of a country and every country wants power. Yes.
Yes.
The United States for sure. And Ukraine as well.
He has demonstrated that one of those ways that he believes that Russia gains power is through gaining land, such as Ukraine, such as the Donbass, such as Crimea.
Yes.
Yes. So, if he thought it was viable, I have every reason to believe that he would continue to expand until someone stops him, until he loses or believes that the cost would be too high, that he would continue to expand, even if that means challenging NATO. He would do it if he thought he could win. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just think that he's barely winning a war in Ukraine against proxies. He's in no position whatsoever to take anything further than that. So I don't believe it's a real risk.
Okay.
Let's talk about Israel-Palestine.
Okay. Go ahead.
Benjamin Netanyahu is a bigger enemy of the United States than Vladimir Putin. What do you agree or disagree?
Disagree. I think he's bad.
Benjamin,
look, we're rating bad people. Netanyahu.
Yep.
Gross, monster, bad, all these things.
Yep.
But I don't think he threatens American interests in the same way that Putin does.
You're familiar with the idea of Greater Israel?
Yes. It's a very similar talking points to Putin when he talks about Greater Russia.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And yet one is our ally and one is apparently our enemy. And I was not consulted on any of this. So my tax dollars go to support the ethnic cleansing.
They called me directly, and I gave the approval for all the tax dollars.
Sure. I couldn't think of a joke fast enough to respond to that.
It's okay.
So my tax dollars are going to support military, a regime who's explicitly stated that they want other countries' land. And yet I'm also I'm supposed to support one regime do that, but then I'm supposed to send more tax dollars to fund a proxy war against.
Look, I'm okay with turning away from Israel, right? I'm okay with, because again, our funding doesn't really it's not as impactful as the funding we give to Ukraine.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure Israel relies pretty heavily on the United States for a lot of its armament.
It's
I'll have to fact check
our
that,
funding.
I believe it is.
Gives maybe 16% of their military budget comes from American sources. It's again.
Okay. I'm not a military strategist, but if someone said, "Hey, you have 16% less of your army to fight," that seems like that would be a big deal.
They would just make up for it by taking money from China or Russia.
Israel would?
Absolutely.
Do you think China would fund Israel?
Yes. Isn't
China an ally to Iran?
If China thought that it could exert influence on Israel, it would be for
You think Israel would?
Absolutely, it would do it. Why wouldn't they?
I guess that's a fair point. I guess I don't know. I thought they
So
just have such
again, the
differing
reason
values, but
the reason it
maybe
gives
not.
me pause to not fund Israel. Again, I'm open to it. I think that might be the moral choice. But when it comes to pragmatism, right?
Big fan.
I think that the money that we give to Israel acts as a leash of some sort. Biden has, for example, demonstrated that he is willing to pull Netanyahu back, or at least try to do so. When Netanyahu gave the 1-day ultimatum during the initial invasion, like get out of Gaza City, you got 1 day to do it. Biden and his influence is partially responsible for getting them to extend that timeline. In addition, when they shut off water, food, electricity to go to Gaza, Biden and the Biden administration influence helped get some of that turned back on. Is it enough? Probably not, but it's better than nothing. And in addition, right, if we aren't the ones influencing Israel, then again, China, Russia, or other bad actors would be in Saudi Arabia, right? Would be in they would fill that void, and I think that their influence would be worse for American interests than our influence it would be. So,
yeah. I mean, that's a very realist worldview. That's one I take. That's why the United States must continue to send arms to Saudi Arabia, even though it's committing genocide in Yemen. Because if we don't, then Russia will back them. I believe, however, I think there's enough ideological difference between Israel and Russia and China and Iran that I don't know if that's that obvious. Like the countries axiomatically hate Israel. Russia hates Israel, and Iran certainly hates Israel. I believe so.
Putin has visited Netanyahu, right? Like they've
okay, and haven't the Taliban met not Israel, but
no, Iran. I'm with you, right? Like Iran axiomatically hates Israel.
Yes, you're right. Hate is very good point. Hate is a strong. I don't know what, and Russia is a collective group. I'm sure there's people in Russia who hate Israel.
There's people in America who hate it.
Exactly. Yeah. So what I should say is, I believe Russia, certainly Alexander Dugin, but I don't know. But then the official stance of Russia is that they are in favor, like they do not support Israel because it's a U.S. ally.
Yeah, but that would change if we withdrew funding. I absolutely do. If they thought benefit to it, and there are benefits to being Israel's ally because they provide America with.
They would choose Israel over Iran?
Yes, I think they would.
I think that's too complicated of a situation for me to say whether or not that's.
Well, look at the benefits
because you have to take
Israel
into account
gives
ideological
to America,
differences,
right? Let's just take the pragmatism of it, right? The benefits that America gets from being allies with Israel, right? We get a lot of tech, we get a lot of AI stuff from them. There's a lot of things that they give to us, right?
It's true.
Russia would jump on that in a heartbeat.
Maybe, but if that destabilizes their relationship with Iran to the point where then Iran becomes a threat, then I don't know if that math checks out. I don't know. We're talking. This is my point. You and I. This is you and I operate on an iron level, talking about like, well, would Russia fund Israel? It's like we have no fucking clue, and it's as hypothetical as it begins. But my point, the reason I bring up the reason I bring that up in relationship to Russia, is because you can understand from my perspective. I'm very fundamentally skeptical of the U.S. globalist class. The one that says
the U.S. globalist class. Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean?
The people who believe the military-industrial complex combined with the people who believe in U.S. like Russia is an axiomatic enemy. People who are less. Who ally themselves with people who do not regard American nationalism as a good thing, which is many people. And I believe American nationalism is a very good thing. I don't see the difference between American nationalism and American patriotism. I'm an economic nationalist, a la Steve Bannon. But basically the military-industrial complex, which has a profit incentive to see these forever wars, and they're very much in league with, a lot of the people making decisions about where our money gets spent. On the one hand, I'm told I need to support Israel with our tax dollars, even though they're an expansionist, ethno-supremacist, belligerent force. But then I have to fund against that in Russia. I'm supposed to believe those things at the same time.
Well, I guess I would
And
just
that-
ask you, do
that
you like
causes-
that we fund Israel? Do you think it's
No.
good that? And
No.
so why, right? Why would you not advocate for defunding
Or actually, well, it's
Israel
more complicated.
and funding a group that is opposing someone that is Israel-like in your mind?
I don't think we should fund Israel in this. We certainly shouldn't fund Russia. We shouldn't support Russia. In
But
their
would you
conquest of
support
Ukraine.
groups that oppose Russia? And I think that we should.
No, in the same way that I wouldn't support. I would not. Certainly, the U.S. should not fund proxies against Israel, despite them being a expansionist state.
So if
This
there
is my
was
point.
if there was a
This claim
group,
about. Go ahead.
there was a group, right, that was opposing Israel, and they didn't have the murderous fascist baggage that Hamas does, for example, right? Like they weren't.
Let's say Egypt went to war
terrorists,
with Israel,
right?
which is a possibility. Egypt versus Israel.
Egypt's absolutely never going to go to war with Israel. Not again. Not after the war in '67, right? It's not going to happen. They have
Let's fact check
normalized
that.
relations. It's just not on the cards. But okay, some other group comes up. They're freedom fighters. You'd be opposed to funding them if they were if they were trying to protect Palestinian lives. You'd be opposed giving them some money.
Sorry, say that again. I was
You would be
under the
opposed.
impression that Egypt had said a statement that they said they would jeopardize the peace treaty. But I think this is analysis. This is not coming directly. Egypt did not say they would mobilize forces just yet. So say that again. What was the example?
Yeah,
you
Egypt's
posed?
just not good. Okay, but yeah, no, there was a we're talking a hypothetical here because I don't think there's any group in the region that's like this. But if there was a group in the region that had the ability to oppose Israel or the desire to oppose Israel, and they didn't
And
have
they were moderate rebels. They weren't fascistic and
they
all
weren't
that.
fascist. They weren't Hamas, right? They were just the good guys.
Should the U.S. support them?
Should the U.S. support them?
No, not at all.
You don't think so?
No,
Why not?
it's not our business. The same reason we don't.
This is the fundamental disagreement we have. I think it is. You think it's not.
Well, for example, if I was debating you, what I would have done is I would have spent 4 hours looking up every major current conflict that is going on in the United States. It would have came with all the details and what the relationships are, and I would have spent 4 hours looking for parallels between all these conflicts, and then saying, well, why not that? Whatever reasoning you apply to the Russian, we can apply here. Whatever you apply it, because well, such and such is allied with Russia, and if Russia, if the conflict in Mozambique ends well for a Russian proxy, that will embolden Putin to start more proxy wars, which would then lead. And it's like, but I'm just here to be bullshit. But I'm glad that we are relatively aligned on Israel, and I do think
relatively. I think I'm a little less.
And I am big on I'm not of the belief that we should cut every dollar to Israel right now. What we should say is, if you
do you support Biden putting sanctions on West Bank sellers?
Oh.
Do you think that was a good move?
It doesn't go far. This is what should happen. Yeah, that was great by Biden. Big thumbs up to Joe Biden on that. Sorry, big thumbs up to whoever Joe Biden's handlers are. If we said to Israel, we said to 𝕵𝖎𝖎, we will give you money, but if you do not issue a statement in the next 1 week that says we will evict every single settler in the West Bank over a period of 2 months or 3 months, then we will cut off all aid to Israel. I think we should do that. The Israelis thought it was reasonable to give a 24-hour notice to the Palestinians to move south, 1 million of them in 24 hours. We could very easily say, okay, there's 400,000 settlers in the West Bank.
To be clear, right? They didn't uphold that. They gave them more time than that.
Okay, and then they bombed them on the way down there. But we for 400,000 settlers, let's give them a month. You have 1 month to evict every settler from Israel or from West Bank. That's what we should condition our aid to. And I think that would be a good thing. And the fact that Biden has taken steps to condition aid, it's not enough. But at least, I don't know, is it worse that he's just saying that he's doing these things and not getting to the fundamental issue, which is the settlers in the West Bank and the ultranationalist Jews? Hard to say. I think what needs to happen, honestly, this is the saddest reality. There needs to be a civil war in Israel, and the secular Israelis have to win. Because otherwise it's the ultranationalist Jews who scream death to Arabs.
I don't know if I would like a civil war. I am
What's
with
the
you
alternative?
that
How do you deal? Let me
Netanyahu
ask you a
has to
question.
go out of power, right? I agree with you on that, but
Yeah.
I think that a civil war would be
How do you deal?
devastating. Talk about destabilizing the region. Damn.
Well, how else do you deal with the ultranationalist, far-right, ethno-supremacist, fascistic Israelis?
Well, the same way they dealt with them in the 90s, right? If you recall, during the 90s, a much more left-leaning group ran the Israel Knesset, or I don't know how to
Knesset.
However you say it, right? And
it
again,
Rabin?
even in 2000, as late as 2000, the whole idea was to give Palestinians own state. They had bought into that in a very real way.
Yeah.
And
then
it was only
Netanyahu?
until the Second Intifada and things like that where it pushed and radicalized a lot of Israelis to be like, well, okay, this ain't working. They're still killing us. So now we have to be more.
I disagree with that. The Israeli radicalization is axiomatic, just like the Islamic radicalization.
Axiomatic.
Yeah, it means it wasn't an outside force that caused them to be radicalized. It's like, for example, Islamic fundamentalists.
Born that way?
No, it's socialized in youth. But if you're an Islamic fundamentalist and you're taught from birth that Jews are evil and they must be killed, it doesn't really matter what happens outside of that. You're going to think that. That's what your ideology is, and that's pretty ground deeply into you, right?
To an extent, I think you can get away with it, right? Get away from it, I should say. Through various methods,
are people that
but
deconvert.
No, it's very hard. I get you. I understand that.
That's what the ultranationalist Jews who believe that they are, you know, the basic 101 of
but that's
God promised the Israelites the lands from Judea to Samaria. That's what Greater Israel is. That is a religious map. That's what that is. And the ultranationalist Jews are axiomatically, they say, the reason that we are allowed to settle in the West Bank and take the land forcibly is because God said we can do it. He gave us this land.
But that kind of idea isn't as widely held in Israel as you might think. We've had Israelis on, like people who actually live in Israel, on this show, right? Who again think that's bullshit, right?
Good. Well, that's what I'm saying. Those are the good.
This is the thing with
Israelis.
Israel.
They're the ones who I want to win the civil war.
Talk about a civil war. It doesn't need to be a civil war. They just need to vote them out, right? They just need to get a coalition together.
Here's the problem.
That can gain power once again, because again, this wasn't the only reason Netanyahu was able to gain the power he was because of groups, Hamas and the PLO and other groups who have continuously attacked, bombed, and blew up Israel, men, women, and children. Like, that is the number one reason.
Right, of course. Netanyahu called them an asset for that exact reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree, and that's why we need to. This is perhaps the most important point, because if this were not true, I would agree with you, but because it is true, I have the position that I have. Do you know Benny Morrison? He's the Israeli scholar who Destiny actually had a 2-hour interview with. He also talked to Coleman Hughes a year ago. It's got like 1 million views. I believe he's one of the two. Benny Morrison and I think Destiny are going to be on the pro-Israel side, and then Norman Finkelstein and someone else will be on the pro-Palestine side. I'm looking forward to that.
So Benny Morrison is one of the pro-Israeli.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he's pointed out religious Jews have more kids than the secular Jews. And a few years ago, it was 10% who were like the radical religious Jews. Now it's 30%, and that number is only going to increase because of the demographic shift.
That isn't due to birth rates. That's due to the Second Intifada. Absolutely, right? When over 140 suicide bombers, or I'm sorry, martyrdom operations came over and blew up
Yeah.
school buses and other things.
Sure.
That's just the ones that were successful, not the ones that actually tried. Again, like if the reason, and I think it's true, one of the major reasons a lot of Palestinians have been radicalized against Israel is because of the brutality that the IDF
Yes, agreed.
has
It goes
engaged
both
on
ways,
that,
for sure.
right? They weren't born hating Jews,
Hold on,
right? They were taught
hold on.
to.
This isn't my opinion. This is what
Sure.
Benny Morrison
Well,
says.
he's wrong. If this
Oh,
is his
okay,
opinion,
well,
he's just
this is-
wrong.
This is like an Iron 4 player telling the Challenger player that they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
What is this appeal to like authority here? Like, do you think that just
What
because
is this appeal to
someone
authority? I call them citing experts. Wait.
good thing that I don't just blindly trust experts, right? Because
Me neither.
if I just blindly trusted experts, I would be believing a whole lot of nonsense. And what
True.
is an expert when it comes to Israel-Palestine? Which expert should I trust? Should I trust Finkelstein or should I trust Morrison?
That
right?
is a brilliant question. I respect that. That's very enlightened centrist of you.
You know,
I have great respect for that.
I'm not a centrist.
Okay, if it is the case that Benny Morrison is wrong, I don't understand why he would say that because it's clearly a anti-Israeli point, but he's pro-Israeli.
What do you mean
so.
it's an anti-Israeli point? Or I'm sorry, to say that the birth rates is anti-Israeli?
Yeah, to say that the ultra-nationalist far-right wing of Israel is growing rapidly and inevitably is because religious Jews have way more kids than secular Jews. And over time, those religious Jews vote for parties like the Jewish Power Party.
So
the people who chant death to Arabs.
The reason that Netanyahu is in power, right? Because the ultra nationalists of Israel are quite a small group, right? It's very small, but the way that their political system works is that they have a coalition system, and Netanyahu makes promises to various groups that are not ultra nationalists that he keeps that allows him to continue to gain support, right? This happens all the time. So again, right, like if the problem is much like the problem in America with the left is fractured over there, right? They don't have a coalition. They got to get their act together in a very real way. They need someone to come to power to be able to rally and coalesce and to appeal to groups that have niche interests, but they're refusing to do so for a wide variety of reasons we don't have time to get into right now. But it's not as bleak of a picture as I think that you, or if this is what Morrison is painting as, that Morrison paints, right? At least not from the people I have talked to who live there.
I hope that's the case. I don't see why Benny Morrison would be wrong about that. Yeah, the Likud, 32 out of 120 seats. I can't share my screen.
Didn't work? That's too bad.
Oh, wait, can I try?
Yeah, try. I'm very bad at this tech stuff, so I might not have given you the right permissions. I thought I did. But...
Is that working?
No. Oh, just read it out. Just read it. Sorry.
Likud has 32 out of 120 seats. Likud is Netanyahu's party, whose motto, I believe, is from the river to the sea, something to that effect. Yesh Atid, the second biggest one is the liberal Zionism, secularism. Those are the good guys. They have 24 seats. Then the next two biggest parties are the religious Zionism party and the Jewish Power Party. So Likud is in coalition government with the third and fourth biggest parties. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a National Unity party at 12. This is what I'm talking about, the bronze stuff. Are you familiar with 𝕾𝖍𝖎 𝖙𝖍? Did you see my video?
I know who he is. I didn't see your video, but I'm aware of his. He's kind of a monster too. So.
He's as bad as any Hamas member, I think, right?
He's. I don't know if I go that far, but he's bad. Let's. I don't know if we need to rank them, but yeah.
That's fair. I don't know if we need to rank them, but Itamar Ben-Gvir is an enemy of the United States, for sure.
I think he's an
Unequivocally.
enemy of morality and things like that. I don't know if he's an enemy. Of the
Yeah,
United
but
States.
he's certainly at
an
odds
enemy
with the United
of-
States.
He's
Like
someone
we
I
can
would
say
oppose.
that. We can
He's
say
someone
that.
I would oppose. Let's say that.
Yeah. If I said to you I thought Dylan Roof was a hero, and I had a picture of him in my living room for up until 2 years ago.
You like saying Manson was a hero, right? I'd be like,
No, Dylan. You know who Dylan Roof is?
He's that guy that killed a bunch of Muslims,
Yeah,
right?
the mash. No, he shut up the he shut up a church somewhere. It was the white
Christchurch,
supremacist
right?
shooter.
No,
Might have
that
been
was a different
Christchurch.
guy.
That was in New Zealand, wasn't it?
Yeah, different guy then. But he did he killed a bunch of
Dylan
dudes.
Roof is an American white supremacist, neo-Nazi, mass murderer, Charleston church shooting.
It was a church, right? So,
Yeah.
I get
And
it.
if I told you that I thought Dylan Roof was a hero, would you regard me as a monster and a psychopath almost?
I would have questions. Yes.
You would say that I'm as bad as being pro-Hamas, right? If I thought Dylan Roof was a hero.
Absolutely.
Okay. Ben-Gvir believed Baruch Goldstein was a hero, and Baruch Goldstein shot up the People's Mosque in Palestine.
Yeah, he's as bad.
So
right?
and
As
Ben-Gvir
someone who's pro-Hamas
is the Minister of National Security in Israel. He's in coalition government with Benjamin Netanyahu.
Absolutely, it's not good.
So that would be like if Alexander Mayorkas had a picture of Dylan Roof in his living room and praised him as a hero. And I would say, and people would go, the United States is a white supremacist country. I'd go, you know what? If the DHS secretary said that, yeah, I would understand why people would say America's a white supremacist country. So fuck Itamar Ben-Gvir. Fuck anyone who says death to Arabs or that a mass shooter of innocent Palestinians is
You're
a hero.
preaching to the choir, brother.
I know. I'm very upset with our relationship with other. I do not think the United States does a very good job at picking allies and enemies.
We are the best of the bad options, however. Any ground we see on the global stage will be taken by people who are objectively worse than us. Because as bad as you think America is, Xi Jinping would be infinitely worse.
Maybe. Why did Germany agree to create a gas line directly from Russia to Germany if they've known that Russia's as bad as it is?
They needed the energy, and they have political entities within their country that hate nuclear, and that was the stupidest decision they could ever made to close those nuclear plants, right? That was the dumbest of dumb that they ever done dumbed, right? Post World War II. Okay, let's be clear. And so
it's the second worst decision they made in the last couple of years.
But you know what I mean. But you know what I mean. Like it was bad. And
why
so
did they?
Yes, they absolutely needed that energy from Russia, and Russia, unfortunately, has an abundance of
but if
natural energy.
So the Nord Stream pipeline was built in 2010, and Putin was president at the time, right? So the consensus of the German leadership was that not only was Putin trustworthy, was that Putin was trustworthy enough to become utterly dependent on him for our natural gas. That's at odds with the narrative about, well, Putin has been this monster psycho for some period of time.
Again, he has, but we haven't always recognized that. For example, if you remember Bush Jr., looked into Putin's eyes, right, and saw his soul, and that whole deal. Do you remember all that, right? Where he's not such a bad guy. We have tried to extend olive branches to Putin and to work with Putin in several capacities. This Germany, this is an example of the West trying to work with Putin, right? And it hasn't worked out. It hasn't stopped him or even slowed him down. And this is why any negotiations
again,
with
I don't
Putin
understand.
is something I don't trust, is because when we have tried to create ties, economic ties with Putin in order to quell his ambitions, to calm him down, and to kind of quell his bloodlust, just hasn't worked.
But then why would the Germans create a pipeline to become reliant on energy to?
They're dumb. like I said, it was a
Maybe.
dumb move in hindsight.
I believe we can negotiate with Putin.
Again, if you believe that at this point, I don't know. We have a mountain of evidence to show that's a bad idea. But fair enough. It is getting late though.
I agree.
It is getting late. I have enjoyed this discussion. I would love to have you on more often, talk to you more. But I do have to eat. I am hungry, and
That's a good idea.
And hungry Wick is not a friendly Wick.
Yes,
So.
and I do always prefer conversations one-on-one, or I would even submit to a one-on-one debate with you moderating of some kind.
There are people that would, I'm sure, love to take you on some of your takes tonight.
Well, this is like, for example, if you had asked me come debate UkrainianAna,
you would have sources, and if I was going to moderate a debate with you, right? Like, so for example, I am moderating a 2-on-2 debate on Monday on NATO and how much we should support NATO and interventionism in general. And I expect that those people will come with sources, right? I expect that to happen.
Yeah. Nerd shit.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of nerd shit.
That should be fun. But I just asked you for a conversation, right? I knew it was going to be a contentious conversation, but it would be a conversation.
Exactly. And if it was like, Paul, you need to come debate on behalf of we need to get out of Ukraine side, it's like, well, look, I'm just here to tell you what I think, honestly. And if that's not convincing, it is what it is. But
where can people find you if they want to find you?
I don't want them finding me.
Okay. That's probably wise.
My name's Rowan, Roenn.
Okay. But for now, we're gonna send you away. So wave bye to young guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Peace, guys.
Gang, did you like the content? Did you enjoy tonight? We talked with the lovely UkrainianAna. It was a great conversation. Then we talked with the equally lovely but not so smart young. Oh, I kid. I like Young. I do. I think he's wrong, but I like him as a person, right? On a personal level, right? I think he's a good guy. And I do wish I was able to convince him to support not only Ukraine, but other global allies, right? There are allies, gang, right? Japan, Taiwan, Ukraine, the UK, NATO. All of them are our allies. We should be cheering their successes, and we should be working against their failures. We should be excited to grow them up. Because we are in a second Cold War. Cold War II. Electric Boogaloo. That's the state we are in, right? When we have Iran, China, and Russia all chomping at the bit to grow their influence and power. We need to oppose it. It is the moral choice. It is the pragmatic choice. It's the ethical choice. But gang, I've talked enough on this. If you liked this content, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. I like to see it. If you want to see more of this type of content, we got more content coming, baby. Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have Mr. Rashad Crenshaw is going to be joining us. We're going to be joined by a new gentleman, Shock Awe, I believe is his name. Tyler is coming on, as well as Admiral Gibbs. And we're going to be debating NATO. That's going to be fun. And tune in for that. On Tuesday, we're going to have SFO, Short Fat Otaku, and Brianna Wu are coming on the show to talk about Lolly and all things, a whole host of things such as that. So if you want some more drama stuff, tune in Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Wednesday, Adam Mockler is coming on the show, as well as Hutch. Yeah, that Hutch. And we're going to have Lactoid and Tyler, and we're going to be talking about Biden and the Her Report. That should be fun. And then on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, we're doing call-ins with Lav. She's going to rate your fit, gang. It'll be fun. That's what we got. Tune in. Who we raiding into? Who's still streaming? Who we going to, gang? Who are we going to? Who is still up and running? I see a few names. Let's go to Rora. We like Rora. Thanks for coming, gang. So, I want you all to say hi to Rora for me. Make sure that you spam those emotes if you got it. And let her know that this is indeed a hate raid. So, I will see you all Monday. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Love you all. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.